Now that we've gotten through that, it's time to get to the main event, if you will. Brother Sevan, are you with us, beloved?
Oh, yes, I'm definitely here, brother. Man, it's definitely good to be forward and on the show again. And I'm just, working on containing my energy right now and staying grounded. It's just very
Oh, yes, believe me, no, don't contain that energy. Let it flow. Because, us as a people, we've contained our energy for far too long. It's time to let it all hang out. So basically, we're going to pick up where we left off from before. Now, you're a very special brother, and, you deal directly with the spirits, okay? And, to me, I look at you as a prophet, okay? Because it's, it appears you have a direct line with the unseen world. And as we mentioned in our private conversation today, one of the main things you wanted to bring to the family was what do the gods really want from us? So please, brother, please expound on that.
Okay, well, first, I just wanted to, because a lot of people that are hearing this stuff now are wondering, where is my information coming from? So since we have a 3-hour segment, it's definitely necessary for that to be, put forth first. And
yes.
Really, when I was a child, I had the ability to be able to travel through the dream world as if it was this world, and I just thought I'd do that. And I would be able to bring things from that world, and about 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they would appear in this world. And that continued to happen up until I reached around 12 or 13 when I started just getting immersed more in what was going on in this particular reality, more so than that world that I was delving in as a child. And I've seen a lot of things, and then by the time I turned 24, I had a situation occur where I started to get re-inclined to dealing with the spiritual world. And now I'm 31, and I've definitely been through enough. And I'm sitting on a master number. What I figured out is if you're sitting on a particular double-digit number as far as your birthday is concerned, there is the ability to traverse through certain religions and dogmas and faiths and belief systems and things like this without getting a normal hold on that a person has when they just aren't on a master number. And I'm sure this just has something to do with how the Most High put things together. But what began to happen is I began to go into these religions, but seeking to become the highest in that particular religion. And so if it was Christianity, then I was going to see Shekinah or Holy Ghost or Sophis or Sophia. And if it was Islam, I was going to see Al-Qadr, the green one, and Shekinah, as they also mentioned it. And so I got a chance to see exactly what was going on in those worlds, and I was very active in those worlds. And I believe it was like moving up a pyramid. And people should understand that all religions are a pyramid, and if you can gain stuff from it, then go up the next step. But if you get stuck, you still have to realize the water is rising. The water rises on this planet, and or what we just say is that this cleaning process comes to the planet during every cycle. So basically what happened is that I started discovering that, especially within the deities, that there was a lot of energy coming off of those deities that wasn't beneficial for the people as far as their total enlightenment phase. And so to put it in layman's terms, I found out that the gods were really up to something more than what people expected and would admit to say, because they felt that these beings were higher and greater than them. And it just had come out within main circles now, but within the initiated circles, everyone knew that the serpent played a heavy role in what the individuals were calling gods. And so now we've been able to track these beings to geometric shapes because they allowed us to learn the geometric shapes and the basic language of things. And that's what the code to the matrix does, is it reveals not only the code within the letters, but also the numbers and the colors, and just the system that is congruent within the whole earth and just how things are built. And so what this has gotten into now is we figured out that basically everything is based on energy, and what people are asking for right now within their particular belief system, well, right now because of their tuning, is success, which equals money to them. And the spirit itself is not a material life form, so its calculation of how it makes money is really within abundance. And so basically a whole world ensued where individuals were getting involved in the deeper things of life, imagining that it was something material, imagining it had something to do with money. And therefore, there was other beings that had passed from this world, some coming to this world, that they began to evoke and to enlist to do things for them. And it became basically like real estate, where the God with the most souls has the most power, strictly off of, depending upon his souls were trained, how his souls were trained, an army. And so what we discovered in the astral planes is that there were armies that were set up that were actually warring against each other, full of the souls of individuals that had been bequeathed to them during this particular lifetime here in an earth plane or a 3D plane. And so, that's really where things start. I can definitely let you chime in to what's happening and to see if you want to bring any direct questions aboard.
I see. Yes, definitely. But right now, I don't have any questions right now, so please continue.
I'll keep rolling with it. So, so what ends up happening here is that this is the 10th cycle. This is what they just call the Omega, and that's why you have a lot of people, going around chanting Om and things like that, not understanding that that's the sound of the end of the world, not the beginning. And
wow.
This Omega is also called the Tin Man. There's a heavy lore within the Wizard of Oz series that is actually a high level of mind control. And one of those characters is the Tin Man, and it symbolizes the cycle where man goes through where he doesn't have a heart and he's been using oil and he's very dirty. And this cycle is, what they call the cycle that ends things, new beginning. And so what's happening here because of the multiple influences, of course, this spans out into a larger story. But what's been happening is that because of this particular time segment, which is what people are about to see within 1 year, is a complete transformation within the species itself. The actual human being is going to make a transformation. And for many, that's going to be positive, and for many, that's going to be negative. It's about 50-50. And I was playing it from this level. Certain times you can look at a person. Let's say if you're on the level of a light being. Actually, light beings have learned lessons about looking down on lower beings and saying, "Oh, they're lower than me." That doesn't get anything done. That's like kicking a person down the ladder rather than pulling them up. So, but there are beings that are below us. So if we look at a demon and we say, "Oh, it's a negative being," but we don't understand that it was first, and then it'll be before this, and then.
Breaking up a little bit, brother.
It's still descending. It's a demon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to test down here. But, where we have a connection. I'm actually in a foreign country right now, so the connection is a little shifty at times.
Oh yes.
Okay, can you actually hear me?
Yes,
okay?
We can hear you clearly now.
Okay, so basically what ended up happening is now at the end of the cycle, human beings have an opportunity to actually descend or ascend at this point. And it is in this last stretch that individuals are attempting to, for better lack of words, distract the human race from its ascension process. Very heavy. And this is really what is now the grand finale, as it's called. There's going to be more distractions. Like I have to separate myself personally from the world because of how many quote-unquote agents were within the world. Individuals, at the moment that you start getting onto the track of real knowledge, they were going to almost materialize out of nowhere to deter you from that and to harness your energy and put it somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
And so what needed to be said is, I elder stepped forth 3 days ago. I just got the message today. I elder stepped forth 3 days ago. And me, I'm still 31, so as an age concern, I'm not an elder in age, but of course my aura is aeon old. And so at this point, when the elder stepped forward, which was Gilbert Blair, we decided, even as today, as the resistance, we're 500 people strong, and we can definitely grow stronger, and we have at least 20,000 people with our literature in their house. we've decided to make a step forward for the human race to bring its complete vibration up and to let it know what's really going on from every single level, and to confront those that are not doing that. Because it appears at this point that we're being attacked. And, you know, as the old saying says, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I think a lot of people have that personality. They don't get into, especially spiritual people that are practicing positivity, they don't get into all the battles and dualities and things. But, however, the indigo, we're here for a war. And that's something I was told even younger in my life when I talked to older lady who could see auras, and she said, you know, you have an indigo aura and a crystal aura, and you're here for a war. And I never really understood what that meant because that was a long time ago. But now I see. And that allowed me to pretty much come to a position where we're ready to put together multiple things. We're already doing movies. We already have the book. We're putting this together, a social network, and we have a social network now. And so we're actually going to make what we know as the last stand for those that are positive beings that intend to ascend by just learning what we call now the esoteric secrets or the real meaning of life.
Oh yes, oh yes. You know, and I could certainly appreciate what you said about Dr. Blair. You know, he's I consider an elder of mine as well. You know, he's also been with us several times here on Occult Science Radio. You know, I miss him, and I have to bring him back. So now, if you're aligned with Dr. Delbert Blair, then you've definitely aligned yourself with someone who's very, very powerful. You know, because, you know, and I totally agree with you in the fact that we need to confront people, you know, especially people that look like us, who are out here under the guise of consciousness, but they're doing just as much to, shall we say, distract us, as you previously stated, as those who are obviously put out there to distract. Would you agree to distract us? Would you agree?
Definitely, and even more on a high level, because this is where we're in the spiritual community itself. This is where the individual that's spiritually powerful has to hold up the whole nation.
Oh yes.
Because you can have like you can have millions of people out there voting for Obama that are unconscious. Millions of black people voting for Obama that are unconscious, but there's one conscious individual that can hold up a million people's mistake. And those conscious people grow in spiritual communities. They don't grow out really in the world.
That's right.
And so what we have to make available, especially for our youth that are coming through that have the special abilities, we have to make available a portal for them to be able to go into the higher knowledge so that they can continue to keep our ears open in other dimensions, because Earth is just not the only thing going on. I know it's, you know, a crash on a lot of people's parade, but there's multiple things going on here, and it behooves the person to get involved or see what the repercussions is for neglecting of such value. And so, you know, going right into things, and, you know, the book really started, you know, everybody goes under the bus. We discovered a lot of things that were even appalling to recount and to even believe, especially with some of the black leaders and what they were involved in. Here's a simple example. Like there's something going on right now that really needs to be put in its place, and that's in regards to Malachi York. Now, I've had the opportunity through the Most High to be around some of the individuals that were the closest into that network, even family members and some of the firstborn of the 200 kids that were bequeathed to fallen angels. And I will say this. They're saying that this individual was not guilty, but I've been next to some of the individuals that were abused that are suffering things from the rest of their life because of what went on in that community as when they were children and pure.
Wow.
Not to mention, he was still, if we want to put all that under the carpet, pointing everyone to Anu, which is still a Sumerian god and has every single connection with what's actually attempting to hold us back at this point. So that is one of the things that I'm talking about, where sometimes our ideas of just wanting to, you know, overthrow something and to get back together and there's a conspiracy going on, this disinformation immediately creeps in and does the opposite and takes advantage of that. And that's some of the things that we're going to end. See, this is now not about anymore. This is not about, well, we're going to make sure that we're correct and we're a little afraid because, they have magic and things like this. What we've brought with us doesn't have a name. And so if they're still calling on a God, they still haven't figured it out. And we know that now because that's what the ancients really knew. And they marked that in their books. Now, who knows who added more stuff to it after that? I have a few culprits. But what was originally told and said is that you could only interface with the Most High through yourself and inside. There was never anything external that you needed. And when you added something, you put yourself down a path or a top, as they call it. Mm-hmm. And once you did that, then it was going to be reincarnations of something like a game where it was going to get taken a little too serious and you can get really deep in it. They say many men have lost themselves playing in the cube. And what they're talking about is that pyramid is a tetrahedron, and it's 8 sides on it, and it's a portal, and it sits down into a ley line and crosses over many different ley line energies here on Earth, and it was used for something and continues to be used for something on this plane and dimension. Now, if a person thinks they're going to get involved in a world like that and they're going to ever run something, that's like you trying to go into Bill Gates' company and just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. You just walk in the front door. This is what we're going to do. We're going to cross over the software. Are you kidding? So many people never understand entering a pyramid. You stop at the bottom, and you start at the bottom, and you stop at the bottom. And the weight on top is so heavy, indeed, it crushes anything underneath it. And that is, what really people think that they can play around with. And that's really what's coming forth to our people is the same Elizabethan or fire cults that had started up before that didn't seem to get us anywhere but our memory wiped. Because the only thing that's precious about life is the memory, because if you don't have the memory, then it's like it didn't even exist. It's void. And that's why many people are going to find themselves going through the void, and because you can't map the void, or quarter zone, or 333 as they call it. You can't map it. You get lost in it until you become made back in a substance called Ma'at. And then they bring you back through a pyramid again with your memory half gone. And so these are the things that we end up finding out what's going on. And so what we're doing, because of course if this level of information is being released, it's definitely the end. What we're doing is we're getting that information in people's hands, and we're doing everything that we can with the organizations that we started up to make sure that this gets to it rings across the earth, so that people just have a choice. That's the thing. The choice has been removed by consent of the person, but they've been conned, or like Apple's logo, icon, or Genghis Khan. And so what they've been conned out of is their soul, because the beginning of this was, what do the gods really want? It just turns out that the human being harnesses a lot of it, especially when it's put through fear. And so most religions are fear-based. And where that begins, if you see where an individual ends up going, if you take a look at, some people are asking me about Hemet. They keep bothering me about Hemet and what I said about Hemet. Hemet knows what's going on. If you go to Facebook and you go in Hemet's pictures, you'll see the Baphomet, 3 or 4 of them right in there. And he's not displaying those as if, hey, this is some esoteric knowledge that we need to watch out for. He's displaying as if this is me. And so if people need to understand and get a brief lesson off of Baphomet again, they could just go ahead and Google it, because there's enough stuff out there for that. But it's time now for these people who are involved in this stuff just to say what they're involved in. And the same thing with the Jesus. Moses raises a brazen serpent on top of a pole and tells everyone to fall down and worship it so they can be cured. But, wasn't it like 4 books ago we weren't supposed to be worshiping the serpent? So which one is it? And this is what I'm saying is that I don't have a problem with people worshiping what they worship, but I do have a problem with people worshiping something they don't know what they're worshiping, if you get my drift. Because there's a lot of people that are involved in mysticism, and it won't be turning around for them anyway. But it's high time that what's been done in the dark comes to the light. Now, listen to the statement. What's been done in the dark will come to the light. Now, they practice in the dark. That's dark magic. So they already said that it was going to come to the light, because they manifested that thing. So now what they've been doing is coming to the light. So what we're doing is we're helping bring it to the light. Like the lion, the cowardly lion, as they say, won't come up and he won't admit what he's done. He won't say what he's done. So we're just going to help him out a little bit. And the reason is because my grandfather was a lion. He was Joseph Henry Lyons. And the Queen of England, her father's name is Henry Lyons. So it's true enough that the bloodlines do run true, but the bloodlines don't tell what a person is going to be about. The person tells what they're going to be about. There's no such thing with destiny unless you're going backwards. That means something's already been written about you. We're going forward where nothing's been written about us. Tales unknown, as it's called. And so this is what I'm putting back within our youth, even if it seems like something new. What it is what's going to be able to get us to where we're not having this same experience over again because we keep going backwards like the two sons keep fighting with each other, whether it's Set and Osiris or whether it's on Israel or whether it's Al and An or whether it's, over and over again, the continuation of fight. So we're going to leave the situation for them to continue to fight in, but what we intend to do is those that want to ascend, that's where we're going to take those individuals with us and then let them manifest what they've been wanting to manifest as they practice in the dark.
I see. Excellent, excellent. So now, as Brother Stevie Wonder said many, many years ago, if you believe in things that you don't understand, then you'll suffer. So I'm 47 years old. I've been around a long time. So, when I listen to music, I'm not just listening to the beat, I'm not just listening to it, to shake my booty and snap my finger. I'm listening for the message, because, I'm a child of the 60s. I came up through the 70s and the 80s. And some of the messages that was in the music back then, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Sun Ra, unfortunately, a lot of brothers and sisters missed it, because they were too into the beat, and partying off that music. So what many of us need to do is go back and listen to some of that old music, because a lot of what brothers and sisters are just getting into now, a lot of them tried to tell us back then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got bands called Fifth Dimension and all sorts of things going on, and it's definitely a lot of knowledge that was continually being pressed through. And here's how I see it. What happens sometimes you have individuals that are so brave they can see the future already. And so what they do is it does take a strategy at times in order to change the future. It doesn't take just one action; it takes a strategy. And what I believe is definitely the ancestors that we do have saw all of this coming. The dolphin, at one point I was able to interface with a dolphin, and they speak in sonar. And the dolphin, the first thing that it said when I was able to transfer its signal was that it sent its signal into the future, and it could see the future with its signal. And that just made so much sense to me from a scientific standpoint, that if it already knows how to communicate with bouncing off sounds, all it's got to do is continue to send it at the actual material object until it completely formulates itself. And so seeing and knowing that there was something more to be achieved here out of the world than what is being presented is what gave me the fire that I have now to speak forth and say things as they need to be said. Because remember, a lot of this information, this part of the information is data. This is just getting a person caught up with what's going on. But it's really not about that. It's only a portion of the activation that is necessary to take place within the individual so that they can get themselves to a higher level. Because they're seeing the Most High through filters, and that's going to end up being a problem now. Meaning that the more people describe, okay, my God is a man, its name is God, and this is its story, and it started here, and it looked like this. They've made God into man. They made the Most High into man now. This is crazy. It's like, where's our focal point? Like, my focal point has to go sit on the toilet. That's not really what I know created this. And so what I started looking deeper into was definitely high mysticism. There was like a hyperdimensional language being spoken within the inner circles, the ones who did take all the books and had kept all of the contact with the gates. And when they started to tamper with the ley lines and put up the pyramid system. And What I will say at this point is that the earth has in itself a net around it. And when a person, and you can even see this net, if you actually use a black light and you cover your eyes at night, like you cover your eyes all night and the top of your head, and you have a black light in your room, when you wake up in the morning about 3:30, 4 o'clock, something like this, and you just pull the black cover off your eye and look right at a white wall, you'll see it. You'll see the grid. This is something that I've experimented with other individuals that weren't spiritually in tune, so they didn't have any other other equipment turned on, and they could see it because of the change within the eye. And what I started noticing that, okay, so a being came a while ago and was told to subdue the earth by putting it in a net, and this net they later called Indara's net. Now, of course, this name also means Marduk. This name also means Cain. This name means so many of the same individual that when you really get the complete story, the people are actually worshiping the individual. That's what makes it their version of their version of how they run society is to make the person love their rapist, and they make them love the master. And serve the master. And this is not going to work with the youth. And that's what's happening with the youth. They're ping-ponging right now, because right now the media icons are trying to push them in one direction, and this is your Jehovah or Jay-Z. Okay, you can't take the name Jehovah for people to understand. You can't take this name unless you're affiliated with Jehovah. And I've had my sessions with Jehovah, and it's definitely a serpent being. And it's very powerful, and it seems to control most of the things going on in the United States that have avowed to the United States. But the most interesting thing about this whole thing was how people couldn't see that this rap individual was actually affiliated with it. Or Lil Wayne, which means Lil is the other name for Lilith, Wayne being the opposite side of the moon, or when the moon is decreasing. So it's like when you not to mention Nas and Nazarites and Nazis. Like and you know the affiliations that his father had, and we sat across from each other, and so I've been able to see, you know, with the spiritual eye what's going on. And so now here's what it is, like Dr. Blair was talking about. It's something like we used to call it death wish. See, what happens is that one of the most strongest characters on the dimension is the person who just doesn't really care to live. Because they already seen what comes after this, and they know it's better than this. And then so they are able to operate in the dimension with no fear and face nothing, no type of repercussions from a negative force, because they're ready to be completely removed from the dimension anyway. And so this is now what people, because the brother was asking on another show, he said, how much does fear really control everything? It controls everything. Yes. Like all the F words tend to control things. And that's another part of the code that we're presenting, is showing how the language, the moment that the language was loaded, for better lack of words, we had to be on our guard. The language is so muddled with the deities themselves. A person evokes, and they're pantheistic all day. For those people who think they're monotheists, they're wrong. They're not serving one God. Just within the emphasis that we put on the words, especially when we say them, from even our own names, which is Amen, it's hidden. It's a main, as the Zoroastrian and the Persians used to worship the mains. This is the arts of Mithras. These are the names that were spewed upon the earth that were, they say, were abhorred in heaven. They were thrown out of heaven. And so really, here's what we really we boil into is that now the human being has an opportunity to actually put themselves on another level where they don't want to deal with this anymore. And this is now the time. It doesn't come any other time. At this point, the shift takes the cycle itself. Earth, from my understanding, is deciding to make its own decisions at this point. And that's something that I've not only got coming across from multiple channels, basically, even interfacing with the earth myself, because the earth has played host to many of these gods also, and that's just something that is unnecessary to elaborate on right now, because it does take us into longer stories of the history of the earth. But the thing about the earth is, it's just like the difference between you and your mother. You're not your mother. You're not. Like Khalil, you're a part of her, yes, but not completely. And just like Khalil Gibran even said, you could. The parents, they play like the bow. They can make the arrow straight as they can and then shoot it. But once it's off the bow, you can't tell it where it needs to go. And so that's really what's happening, or you can't affect it anymore. And that's really what's happening with the children from the sky. And they correspond to many of, as we see in Zodiac, every time a star appears, the person's born here on Earth, and then the constellation in which they appear around develops their influences on their body, not their spirit. See, the body came from the earth, it's the flesh, and it's karn, or kar, as it's called. And when that being itself overthrows soul, who's solo, meaning alone, then there's going to be a problem with all the things that are associated with mammalian beings, which are the need for communion, the need to follow, the need to have support, warmth, all these different things. And so what we have to understand and to do is to master both beings, and that's why in a lot of the ancient teachings, they weren't missing anything, especially in some of the Chinese and Oriental systems of the discipline of the body. But now, people are not ready to go to the extreme of forcing the body into some level of submission so that they can gain some higher level of power. So the Most High, who's still the greatest planner, has allowed man to unlock and woman to unlock into chemistry to where we understand how to change the molecular composite of the body with simple salt, even in order to allow people to experience what we would just call ascension, and begin to make that phase, because ascension is like a journey. It's, again, once you get started on it, it is really an EverQuest, and things are rapidly changing to the point where you learn how to completely blink into another reality and not be surprised that you're there. It's kind of like a slider. You slide into life and body for a moment and be the best they can be for a couple of years or days or whatever, and then you slide into another experience. That's just the position that is also played here with a lot of individuals, and it's just an observer. And unfortunately, I wanted to be an observer this lifetime, but it looks like I'm going to be an activist. Because what I did find out is, sometimes you do get the higher levels of knowledge and power, and you see the Arabot and the magic window opens for you and a hand comes out, and this stuff really happens. But what I found is that what is it all if your brother can't enjoy it?
Exactly.
It's like what I always found was that the moment that I will find something, hidden knowledge and secrets, especially from the level of what I was interfacing with, the immediate thing I would do is blog about it. And that's what allowed me to keep receiving it. But that was completely opposite to what we had been taught, which was that once you learn the secret, you're supposed to keep it. And then I understood something simple. If you have all the money in the world, like, it's not even all the money in the world, but let's say I've seen $26 million diamonds. And some person will actually buy that diamond, and they'll probably sit it on the counter for a while and look at it. But the thing is that when a human being comes, or let's say it's a man and a woman comes, he'll walk into the room with the woman and leave the diamond there. And then after a while, the diamond will go on the shelf. After a while, you won't even see the diamond anymore. It's just a pretty rock. But it's still $26 million worth of energy into that rock. And what I'm starting so what I'm starting to notice is, if anyone expects for the consciousness of our community to get ready to come up, it needs to listen to the individuals that have come forth, make a sound judgment of what they believe to be true, and to support them, no matter who it is. Like, whatever you're involved in, just go ahead and support it to its full degree. I'm not saying support me. I'm saying support anything that you're involved in so that you can at least get to the truth of it. Because we've been half-heartedly doing things. And there's a book a long time ago, it's called Half Magic, telling how you had to wish for things twice in order for them to come true because you were divided in Maya. Maya means to split, and then it causes an illusion after that. And so people have to understand that they've been split and disconnected and all sorts of stuff, DNA shattered and ravaged by who? And that's one of the parts of what we're also bringing forth in the code highlights is who's actually been involved. Now, it's a lot of them, because as I highlight in the video, there's several mentalities, and I show in certain movies and things like that, the mentalities, especially in the Decoder series, which is available on YouTube now under the tag Innerstanding, INNERSTANDing. The video basically shows from multiple levels how definitely there's a hidden message embedded within the films, but not so much as this, but highlighting for it in a nice cinematographic, advanced learning way of exactly what's been going on here and who's really at stake. So that way, who's really at fault. And so that way, next time one of us is rubbing shoulders and my organization is driven now towards getting closer to these people to put them on the spotlight like a esoteric version of Punk'd, where we ask, what was this symbol? What were you doing here at this meeting with this person? And then we'll see how funny that is for nighttime television, because they'll love it. Because once they find out that their truth is indeed stranger than fiction, then that's all they're going to lock onto anyway, because there's that part of the individual anyway that always is going to cater to something esoteric, and that's their soul. And so once we switch them off of material and onto soul, that's when we have the ability to see what we're trying to see from the population itself. Now, the individual is separate. What you do for yourself, what you do with the knowledge and where you take it is really up to you. Affecting the consciousness of the world itself is still one of our dreams, because people have choice. So what I mean by that is that when you want to raise the consciousness of a whole a group of individuals, then it's going to take some collaboration. Those individuals are going to have to get together. They're going to have to get together and talk. They're going to have to get together and strategize. You need to figure out who's the head, who's the feet. You have to do something of that nature, and that's exactly what the Illuminists have done, and the Ordinatis and the Rosicrucians have done, and the Theosophical Societies have done. They've gotten their thinkers together, and they've penetrated the realms, opened more dimensions for themselves, and kept a body here and a body in other planes, because you got two vehicles, two cars. Now imagine, like I was saying before, just to kind of go on a lighter note here, something interesting. How much is one of these things worth? How much is one of these organic bodies worth? Like some people sometimes always be trying to calculate how much money and things like that. They don't understand, man, you're sitting in an organic body. Like how much is that really worth compared to what it's capable of doing? You know, and that's really what you have to understand is at stake, because they'll do anything to take it. And that's really what's happening in society, is that there's a price on it, as they show with the straw man and things like that. There's a price on the human body at this point. And that price extends for the body. There's a material price for that. And then for the soul, you know, you would love to say it's priceless, but some are, selling for cheap. So, but this is definitely some of the stuff that's being highlighted. I didn't know if anyone's in the chat room. I know we're 45 minutes in.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, we're going to take a quick pause here. The switchboard is lit up, brother. So in order for us to at least get some calls in, we're going to take a call or two now. Are you ready for some questions?
Definitely.
Okay, we're going to start off with our first caller here from the 323 area code. Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Hello?
Am I online?
Yes, you are. Greetings, sister. How are you?
I'm doing good. And how are you all?
Doing well, sister. Thank you.
Good. I was just listening. He giving some powerful information, but also I had a question. I was listening to Sister Myra 8th Star, and she was saying how most have been
sweetheart of a sister.
Yeah, very. I love all my queens and kings out there. But how every kingdom has been formed, and the earth is really like a daughter, and a new creation of a daughter in itself through character. So can you expound on that a little bit for me? Like creating something new artistically, even like myself now, I find myself getting just more conscious, writing, singing, doing things that I myself, within myself, through like Patah, which is the path of your own self. And I find a lot of people, even around here in the Los Angeles, in their own world, separate, alienated in the essence, so, not really intertwining much, just focusing in their own individual world in the essence. But I'm just saying, bringing it back to the daughter essence, is that in a creation period, it's just like a creation of an individual stepping stone within a person to find themselves?
Definitely, it's easier to separate the male and the female in the aspects of understanding the spirit, because the woman carries the soul matrix. She carries, several pieces of, better like the word, organic equipment that men don't. And that allows them to be in tune with certain things and certain abilities that we have to turn on. But likewise, men also possess an internal sun. But what it is that, indeed, the earth as a spirit itself, female spirit, has been just like a woman would attempting to make decisions and deciding what it wants to do. It's a conscious being. And there's been many as you see, the larger planetary systems that have sought to make influence. And how you can understand the whole world is still a fractal or a small piece of everything that's going on in outer space. That's exactly what women face now in their life. Is you have one individual who may have succeeded in life and is just more influential as a character, like a guy who's just, he has things going on with business, et cetera, and he's attempting to influence her consciousness. And then at the same time, you have other male factions that are playing a different role and attempting to influence her consciousness, even sometimes by force. And so what you have in the end is that everyone has to go to a point where they go internal for a moment at least, understanding how to operate both worlds, because if there's always an external idea of things, meaning I need to go out here and do this, I need to make sure that this is together, then the inside is starving. And so what we see with most individuals, because the poles are definitely changing and then the magnetic influence is definitely picking up, what's happening with most individuals, they're unlocking the other side of themselves. And that's really something that the ancients, even the recents, knew how to do, playing around with magnets and monatomic goals and different things like this, of how to turn on the other side of the brain, which is more individual. It's the actual, for better lack of words, fingerprint. It's what's different about us, or what they actually call the Bomar gene. It's amazing that that's actually my last name, but it's what makes each and every single one of us individual. And so, yeah, definitely I see as the female consciousness at this point has an option, just like the male consciousness does. You can either ride with the negative side of Venus, which seems to be what's doing a lot of the influence negatively over women, or what we just call the V. It seems to be an androgynous being, by the way. It doesn't seem to be just male, but also female, and playing both roles. But she can either choose that, which is in the forefront and in the scene of everything, the Victoria, or she could choose to not choose and see what she really is. And that's, again, what we're all facing at this point. We can either emulate, as men, some of these suns, or dying suns, as they keep calling them. Notice a lot of people are worshiping dying suns. Right. Or we can go to seeing, what's beyond the sun. And that's what I believe that what happened initially with our testing knowledge is we didn't question if there were higher knowledge before we actually delved in some of the things. A lot of the people that are what they're involved in, they didn't question, is there higher than this? They just immediately went to what was given to them. And that is also the danger with some of these elders that are out now they're really just warlocks. I've seen 1,000 of these guys. They but you can go ahead, Suzanne, because I've almost got off the topic. But make sure I get back to that topic, brother.
But I also want another, because I'm an Aries, April 15th, and I wanted to know how that linked, because I do have like a male dominancy of, and I know Mars is lined up with that planet, within my birth month. So how do I relate with that? Because I know sometimes I can be, real kind, and then I could just, get kind of pissed off. Whoa, I didn't know you could be like that. You so nice. But how do Mars kind of affect? Because no one really talks about the Aries,
Well, see, the thing is a lot of people are just being what they say they are. It's like a Jedi mind trick. It's like, this is what you're supposed to be. Oh, that's how I am. You see, the scenes we're keeping, it seems SS, meaning it's the serpent, definitely, keeping tracks of the stars for aeons to know when beings were going to be born that were stronger, weaker, etc. And when these beings' records were up for taking, these were people, the reason why they were so valuable, because it was so difficult to keep track of the stars, because stars now, with all these other extraterrestrial bodies that we have docked within our system, you could be thinking you're looking at a star, but do you have a ship to go and see? Like one time when I flew up my astral body out of Earth, I had this idea of heaven. This was early in life, but I still had the lucid ability, and I flew out of Earth, and I was outside of Earth, and I had nothing to stand up. Like I was kind of slipping out there, and it was all black. And I was looking and seeing certain things in the distance, and then I finally decided to just break the lucid sleep. And I realized that whatever they wanted you to see out there, they could really show you if you had no way of verifying it. And anyone that was actually out there, I mean, if you actually had a real physical ship to be out there, you were in the club with them. You were in the organizations that have trekked space, or the psychonauts, as they call themselves. If you were leaving for the physical ship. But there's beings that look at, when you leave Earth with the physical ship, they just kind of shake their head, because they realize that, you're the first thing, you don't go. You go in there. You have a light body inside of you, and that's, that can take multiple people and yourself. And so this is again, a lot of this content is a lot longer and from a level of understanding and foreign sometimes. But when we realize it, when you play some of these recordings back and think about it on a simple level, it kind of makes perfect sense. Oxygen is going to always be what holds the material body from going too far out in space, lest man contaminate things with his ideas. Like you can't even when they're doing a self-sufficient system inside of a space shuttle, it still only goes so far. And I don't know how we got into quantum mechanics, but basically what I'm saying is that there's fail-safes to keep a person from getting into higher levels of thought. And there's also hindrances to keep a person into higher levels of thought. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to erase everything that they said about us. Go to the end of your story, for better lack of words. There's a book, I believe it's called The Book of Destiny. It's written by a Hebrew Kabbalist. And this book, you can, I believe, find it. It's a huge book, but you can find it for like $13, $14 on Amazon. And this book, it's very weird when a person reads this book. We've watched people, when they read the book, they most of the time cry, because what's written on the page is exactly who they are, like to the teeth. And these are, of course, Kabbalists, old Jewish men with long beards, they cook this thing together. So what I realized after I wrote the book, after I read the book and I read about me, I went to the end. After reading through it, I said, okay, I'm going to start from here, because they were right. It was literally like whatever they've done in this system, when you adapt this zodiac and these birthdays and all of this other data, they know exactly what you're going to be about. They pigeonhole you. It's like the moment that you say, my name is James. Okay, James goes down one pigeonhole. It's IMS. Then it's like a computer processing the information, born here, date here. And it does this stuff so fast that it immediately knows where you're going to be, what decision you're going to make. And what people have to start doing is they have to be rare. They have to start moving in mysterious ways again, be pinpointed, meaning that your next move is not predictable anymore. You just go to your parents and say, hey, I'm leaving. What do you mean? Don't ask me. I got something I'm doing. This is how I really move about life. I don't have to move unpredictable, or else you suffer the consequences only of
I see. Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in, sister. Yeah, you posed some excellent questions. And always a pleasure to have you. Please stick around. There's a lot more information to come, sis.
Thank you. You all have a good night.
Thank you. You too, beloved sis. Peace. And before we move on to our next caller, we just want to acknowledge another master in the house who's also a dear friend of ours and also a part of the family, who is here representing Sovereign Mind Radio, Brother Lennon Honor. I see you out there in the chat room, brother. Always a pleasure to have the scholars in the house. And Brother Lennon doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be on with us next week. And I'll be in his ear about that tomorrow. But welcome, brother. Always a pleasure to have you in the house. And with that, we're going to move on to our next caller. Ooh, yeah, the switchboard is really swinging tonight. We have a caller from the 313 area code. Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there? Oh, I guess they're just listening. Oh, well, I don't blame them. Believe me, with this type of information, I'd just be sitting back and listening too. So we're going to move on to our next caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Peace, beloved. How are you?
I am extremely wonderful and grateful and illuminated one. And Brother Sevan, this is very enriching for my spirit to hear a young brother have the courage to stand up and speak the truth, his truth, about the elders who are perpetrating a lot of evilness or misleading people. That takes a lot of courage, and I commend you and send you energy for more strength to be able to do that, because that's not an easy task that you have undertaken. And you spoke about writing, and the writing bringing you more gifts, that Tahuti is blessing you, and that is a wonderful thing as well. And those who are listening should pay attention to that. And the fact that you're sending people to themselves, to look inside of themselves, is the key to their destiny. And many things that you are saying are really touching my spirit in wonderful, wonderful ways. And I just wanted to say that to you and thank you, Tua, and thank you, Illuminated One. And I'm just going to listen to more wisdom from the youth.
Thank you so much, beloved Queen, who I consider a distinguished member of the family. Always a pleasure to have you, beloved. Always a pleasure to hear your powerful and kind words. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
I definitely wanted to thank the sister for the encouragement, because she's definitely right now. The tables are turning. I won't say it was always like this. Like when we started this, even Lennon in the chat room. Man, I remember it was a time where it was really, really rough, and this seemed like a new concept of investigating the gods. Who's going to put the gods on the stand? Who could be the judge? And I was at one point, I said, okay, Sevan, man, this is like really far out. Like, why are you still here on Earth, knowing all of this? And then, it seemed to be somewhat out of place for me. And then I ran into Lennon. And amazingly, we went to the same high school together and never saw each other. But I ran into him on YouTube, and I saw one of his videos, and it really put the flame back in me to keep going. That there was, if it's just one of us, and to hear the sister, come forth and definitely say, what everyone sees going on. Like, see, the thing about it is, I'm a little crazy anyway, so I could see if I was, talking about something that wasn't going on. I'm on one of my quantum theories. No, I'm talking about stuff. The only thing that I'm really talking about here on this show is things that I know, that I've seen with my own eyes. And that's all I always say. It's different when you're talking to a person that knows. Like, I can tell immediately when I'm talking to someone who's had the quantum paranormal experiences and multiple paranormal experiences, then it's kind of like even a certain look they have in their eyes. And so all of these things really lead us back to and forward to what we really have going on right now in our primary reality as our present. And so what I realized was, and that's really what's been going on with inside me, and I definitely believe is one of the reasons why we've connected, because you see how we connected. We just all of a sudden you knew about me, we connected, we seen it the same way, and the next minute we were on the show, and then things are still unfolding like they are now very rapidly. And I really wanted to say to the communities that are out there, African American communities, even Caucasian communities, because the bloodlines are now so mixed up. And that's why we have to let go of things. And I always said this because a lot of people are scared of this retribution that's supposed to hit them if they deny the God at the last moment. And all I would say to people is like, okay, because that's the fear. But let's just say that the God did show up that you believe in. I would just be like, look, it got so crazy in the end. Everyone was saying they were you. and I knew that I had to do something else because I can't follow a group of individuals that I know that, and I feel personally are going in the wrong direction. And if I'm somehow in the wrong because of that, then I'm willing to accept it. It's almost like, you know what they say, kind of you're manning up, or as they say, to the actual the scenario that's going on. But like I said, there's no limit to the individuals that you see in these communities that practice this type of magic that seem to, you know, it's just the darker sides of the Orisha religions. And they peddled this as if there was a way to transfer money for spirit. And it always says, woe to the person who gets involved in things like that. And you should always address the individual. Like today, I did happen to sit, because normally I won't listen to individuals that I know that are carrying the negative vibration from a level of magic, because that is how they enter one's fold. Like I noticed that most individuals are hooked to these individuals now because of their voice and the entity that's speaking through them. And I want to get into definitely that a little bit later on in the show about how for this particular being that these individuals are worshiping, it needs a host, it needs a vessel to actually come into in order to manifest itself in 3D. And so it's used out of these individuals as portals and vessels to bring forth its message of just deception. The deception is going to come very heavy at this point, and that's why it's easy just to detach from everything, because you don't, like they say, it's hard to, you don't have to remember anything when you're telling the truth. You just don't. And so with a lot of these individuals, it's so much data and so much information and things like that about the God and what day and the ritual. So here's what I was listening to today, this angelic stimulus package. Now, obviously, the price, the benefit of this, and I'll show you how spirituality gets all twisted up, and then it gets the person in a lot of trouble. This angelic stimulus package that's being presented by Mr. Hemmett. $2,500 the person's supposed to receive from some unknown location, some unknown destination, and then they get $150 worth of pictures for only $50. But this $2,500, now 25 is the number of ISIS. So I've already talked about this same type of belief within this individual and this cult that they're involved in. And then from there, what is this genie in the bottle effect that people keep thinking that real spirituality has something to do with? Like, you can't say, okay, I'm going to genie this thing. Actually, you might as well go to Vegas. Because if you say that you're going to give $50 and you're going to get $2,500 back, it's the game, and that's the game that these beings love to play, because the Most High has nothing to do with this type of stuff. And that's what I started to really tap into. When you take away the filters, again, stop seeing your focal point or the high being as a man, a woman, a bird, a fish, a dog-headed snake, dragon, creature. You see? And latch on to that it's not going to be in your reach and conception until you turn on certain things, because there's basic knowledge that was left behind. One, there's a chakra center or jewels encrusted inside the body that are turned off. Two, individuals being possessed can do paranormal things because the spirit goes into their body as a fluid and turns on the lower functions of those, which are normally within the feet and the knee. Basically, it's the inverted tree below the waist. And so a person possesses extreme charisma and prowess, or the person actually has a sex appeal to them. And this is why a lot of the Hollywood figures, when they get initiated, they have this sex symbol way, even if it's a vampire. I'm looking at the vampire now become the sex symbol on this new Twilight series and things like this. And this is what, again, is going to end up affecting the masses of people, because they're using the children like a SETI or a hive mind in order to manifest and keep this reality where it is. However, that is not going to work in its totality, and that's what I figured out. I only can say I keep figuring that out, because sometimes you when you get deeper and deeper, and you say, man, is that's what's in control? What's going to overthrow that? And then later on in your studies, you figure out what's there. But at this point, after what I've seen again, after what I heard today was a very special day for me personally, December 7th. When I saw Dilbert Blair come out, I said, man, well, I'll rally behind the elder. Like I already know he's in the know.
Most definitely.
I already know he's messing with diodes, he's messing with magnets. Now we're talking. See, I'm not talking about rituals anymore. Like I've watched individuals get so deeply involved with rituals and keeping pigeons in the closet for like 3 or 4 days in the dark, and then bringing them out and then having to eat him when he's not, and all this stuff. And I still see those people broke. And the reason why they were doing that ritual was to have some money. So what's up? Like that is really so they normally say, well, I need 2 pigeons. See, this is the maniacal behavior that's been going on with the human race ever since the time that the grasshoppers used to eat up the crops. And then the person would say, oh man, the grasshopper god must be upset. So then they would go and fashion a grasshopper god and then, leave it there. And then the moment they fashioned it, then the stuff would stop being eaten by grasshoppers until the next year. And then it would get eaten up again. They say, well, the grasshopper god wants more. What does it want? They must want the first of the crop. And then so they would give it the first of the crop, and then the next year the grasshopper didn't eat the crop. But then the next year it would. And meanwhile, there's unseen forms that make all of this stuff happen. And so the person eventually ends up sacrificing their firstborn, like this religion of Christianity where the only begotten firstborn son must die. And then Abraham offers up the son, and then the sheep, you got to bathe yourself in the sheep's blood. And all of this stuff is what will let a person know that they've been veiled. Because if they don't see it for what it clearly is, when 1,000 oxen got to go into a burnt offering of a furnace 10 times heated, man, that's not KFC. I mean, that's not Burger King. The show's still on. So what does that smell like? What does that look like? What's going on? What is the sound? A lot of mooing. And then, trying to figure out how Lemuria connects with all of that. And so that's really what happened within my transformation, is that this information came through a light transfer. It didn't come from me reading. Like I did a light transfer with ultraviolet that, was something that I didn't know was going on. But once I had the information and I was able to dig through the information, I eventually uncovered that was the transformation at one point that I had made. After getting involved in the Christianity and the Islam and being an imam and a pastor or a pastor or a prophet for prophets and all of these things that but I was always in my heart only looking for something to save the people. And that's why I always know intent will lead you to the truth. And that's what many people are hearing right now because of their pure intention for the Most High. This message is dropping into their lap. There's a lot of information to support it, but it'll manifest itself within the person's life. All they have to do is they can lock themselves in the closet at this point, but what's been heard will continue to manifest itself because it's the truth, and the truth stands up for itself. It doesn't need like a defender. So all these people protecting their God, brother, you said this about brother, man, look, if a brother is something, he could protect himself. And so when we were spending more time on protecting people and worrying about other people, we're in love with the man and not the mission. And then the mission is to get yourself in line and ascend and get off of these focal dimension. And that's what I will tell to the African-American race and to all the rest of the races, Caucasian race, Chinese man, and Oriental man, and all of these people on the earth. If you don't figure out a way to get off the dimension through your light body and your spirit, then you're going to be stuck around here for when the New World Order gets here. And it's almost complete. And this New World Order didn't start on earth. It started in heaven. And as above, so below. So if it's going to be a new world order on earth, there's going to be a new world order in heaven. But that's just third dimension. See, third in time, the dimension itself always plays out. Like if a person's still stuck on the dimension, man, you can come back to this thing 100 and 150 years later, and there'll be cells and people living underground and all sorts of different things going on. Who knows? But you don't have to remain on this density. You can go up to a higher density and not even using the word density. I don't even put any more limitations on the dimension that I'm supposed to be going to, but I do know it does come in some type of order based on the consciousness. But the person has an opportunity to kind of bail out. And I'll tell you from what I know today, the button has been right now. The button is being pushed like, hey. Let's get ready to get off. Let's get ready to get to a higher level of things. Let's get ready to get smart. Let's wake up now, because there's no use in being conscious for 40 and 20 and 30 years of your life, but the movement wasn't ready to really hatch yet. Like imagine knowing all this that we know now, but 20 years ago, and then watching it all sluggishly play out. See, right now everyone is really being put in a know because it's all in 1 year. 2010 is the year of the light. Venus is supposed to block over the sun, and then the radiation from Venus hits the Earth. And the Mayans are worshiping it, and they say the radiation itself does something weird to humans, makes some type of weird transformation with them. And that's why in all movies that of anything like heroes and anything like when you see the movies that they play in Hollywood about transformations, they always first show something that looks like an eclipse. And many people have confused that eclipse for the ones that we have all the time with our moon, but in this case it's the eclipse with Venus. And like I said, this is the constant reality that plays out at any moment, and as people can see, it's playing out like a movie, because that's their idea of things, is to embed in people's minds first the reality, and then allow the person to create the reality with their own mind, trapping themselves in it, or trapping themselves inside of the cube or the tube.
I see. So basically, and like I said, I truly admire your courage, brother, because I feel that, finally, I've met someone, other than myself who, and, not big-upping myself or anything, but we need warriors and warrior queens to step up now to really, have the courage to tell the truth. So I could really support really what you're doing, and as you very well know, totally supporting what you're doing. We're going to be collaborating, myself, you, and Brother Lennon Honor. We're going to be bringing forth some powerful information. But I really am really proud of you to really bring forth the fact that, there are many amongst us who we believe are bringing the truth, but in turn they are playing the game of deception. And what I'm seeing going on out here in the community now is that the obvious ones, the Farrakhans, the Jacksons, the Sharptons, yeah, I name names, that's what we're here for, no more secrets. The obvious ones who we all know, Creflo Dollar, that have been put out there to deceive us, now I feel as if they're being replaced by a quote-unquote conscious community where the language is a little bit different, and this language is being accepted as truth. So now it's sneaking by discerning minds. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, their judgment is set, though, because that's what they've been playing around with. Too much playing around with set has gotten a lot of people in trouble. And so now it's like a crash and burn type of thing. It's like the person who knows that they're going down and just wants to take everyone with them, that type of mentality. And it's just not going to happen this go around. And that's always what I say, not on my watch. Like, I don't care when this normally works. I don't care if it worked for the last 40,000 years. I already seen what a part of the being that I am in the other side, and I know there's sleepers here, as we call them, individuals that are very powerful beings that are just now awakening, or we just call it the amnesiac God, who's just now, remembering, oh man, I was here, I sent myself back in time, or whatever story you want to give yourself, because the future itself, here's one of the things that happen, because there's multiple things going on. If we don't increase the consciousness level of our youth, then we can't come back through them, meaning that we can't experience Earth through them as an observer, not as someone infecting. But you got to understand, like when a person is going through their complete joy and you're there observing that, the essence is in the air. That's pure energy. So if the whole dimension itself is taken to a level where everyone is experiencing false and falsehood, synthetic feelings, it feeds a synthetic being. Now, this is going into the area where it's not really me talking, but the synthetic being, something like silicone, something like an android, but also still some type of insectoid reptilian being. And I know 100% that we've been able to identify this being. Like, we took a dime and we paired it. See, what we figured out was that somehow in this dimension, if you add another side to what you're looking at, you see the whole picture. And it also works within certain photographs, and that's really what sigils and symbols and things are about. And some of the individuals that we were linked up with for a while, some of them, I don't know, I guess they ascended, they had figured out how to take movies and run them against each other, pair them, basically, mirror them, and there was a whole different thing going on, basically. And what happened was that in one particular thing we noticed that if you took a dime, one of the older dimes would look like, just to get through this real fast, it looks like torches on the back of the dime. And all you have to do is pair it against itself, and it shows the same being that they show on the movie The Matrix as not the ruler, but the controller of the dimension, meaning what they're using to control the actual dimension, some type of artificial intelligence. And there's, of course, many different things to support this, but it makes perfect sense that these guys who can't seem to get anything right, these beings that, they're not really that intelligent, not as what they're given credit for, had to create another being to think for it. In addition to that, it uses our creativity in attempts to assimilate us. Like when you look at how it's the flavor and the pizzazz of the melanin dominant individual that tend to misconstrue and then taken and shot across the world to change up the consciousness of everyone. And that's just what happens. Like, that's not taking anyone's side or anything. So, like I said, in being the observer and not taking any side at all, you're able to see exactly how it plays out. But the moment that you take a side and you say, this is what I believe in, then the distortion starts from there. Like I tell certain individuals, look, if you're looking through two eyes, you're seeing it already in binary. You're seeing in duality. If you're seeing with one eye with omnivision, then you're getting the whole story. And when you see a human being on the astral plane, most of the times you see multiple eyes. So I started noticing that those multiple eyes were multiple beings that had attached themselves to this particular individual. And we got a little bit deeper on it. We had a PlayStation 3 camera that was rigged up to shoot what was inside of a person's body by taking a picture of their eyes only. And so this is the experiments. Like we're engaged in, like I already told the individual on the site, we're here, we're activating. Like we practice, if we practice anything at all, we practice the energy of the body in understanding what alchemy was and understanding how to put magnetics and boost up the body so that it becomes, the term has been given as homo luminous, meaning light human. Because still, from where I assess this whole thing, if I was just to give an assessment of what would need to take place here, I hate to shoot the bar so high, but I realistically think that it's going to take some activated humans to really deal with the situation that's going on to be more effective, to get things so that those who are feeling, especially for those who are feeling the oppression of what's going on now, to make it lighter on them right away. See, why if we know someone's carrying the burden, continue to make them carry the burden until we figure it out? All it takes is for a few of us to get together, especially those that have some resources, and to invest in the individuals that we know that are already almost activating, using their chakra system, and then allow them to deal with things from the outside of time network, which is, it's about energy in the body, and that's what I definitely want to get with Dr. Blair about, is because he has the knowledge. And that's why, I've done a lot of experiments, and as you see, I'm doing experiments with ultraviolet, doing experiments with frequencies and gamma rays and different things like that. And but this is for individuals like Mr. Blair to collaborate on, and that's what we're really dealing with here. This is happening now, people. That's the thing. Like, this is not someone getting on the radio like, I stopped. Like, I'm just not. They already know I'm not going to stop. They're more than familiar with my character. I've seen them. There was one level when I went into activation, and I've seen this reptilian being before, and that may sound funny, but they do look like humans. Obviously, they're a hybrid. But these are the ones that just work on the dimension. Obviously, it's a hybrid. It looks like a human being, but only if you notice closely, the face is a diamond shape. And there's this thing, because I used to always be a people watcher. I used to watch people all the time in the airport, even when I would get some time, and I would go to the airport early just to watch the characteristics and movement. So the one time that I 100% had a chance to see them, there was 3 occasions where I know I saw them, but I would take out of all those 3, one where it was no type of lucid dream going on or nothing. I was right there. They came right up to the car. And I noticed that the interesting thing is, while this stuff's going on, I'm always totally amazed because I broke the threshold of fear. And I said, geez, these things walking around the dimension, like, who do they work for? Then I found out they work for Jehovah. And see, that is the part of what I bring that most people that I've encountered don't know, because they've had hadn't had the chance to go into that. They just immediately became the adversary or the advocate of it. Like the Christianity, they either become the adversary, so they don't understand Christianity down to the level of the Jesuit, or they're an advocate of it where they don't understand anything. They're just blinded. They're just, so full of the spirit, as they call themselves. They're out of their mind and out of their body. And so this is what I believe is still, very powerful for this time, because when we were exchanging information, me myself, when I was exchanging for information and looking for the higher levels of enlightenment, all I got, the height of that was namaste, brother. The grid is turning now ultraviolet color, and you need to chant to this and blah, blah, blah. And, it was all that. And that wasn't getting anything done except for like possessions. And that's what I saw within individuals that were getting involved in some of these levels of teaching.
I see. And with that, brother, we're going to take one more caller, and then we're going to take a little music break. But very powerful information. We have a caller from the 770 area code. Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there? I guess they're just listening. Okay, let's see what we have here. We have a caller from the 919 area code. 919. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening. Just wanted to say peace to the brothers. It's a wonderful show. You have a wonderful night. Peace. I'll stay on and listen.
Thank you so much, brother. Much appreciated. Okay, with that, beloved fam, we're going to take a short musical break, if you will. We'll give everybody a chance to stand up and stretch and walk around and get yourself something to drink. The 7th inning stretch, if you will. And we will be back shortly with the very, very powerful, and I call him Master, Brother Sevan. So we'll be right back. Just going to take a short break. Peace. And we're back. Beautiful, beautiful song. Yeah, for those who were asking in the chat room who that was Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it's from their Illuminations CD. And you can get that from earthwindandfire.com. Yes, so, a beautiful song. I play it often myself. So we're back with Brother Sevan. Brother Sevan, up until this point, there's been so much information, and I'm quite sure everyone is digesting it. But before we get started, I'm just going to take, we're going to look in the switchboard here. There are so many callers here, and I know they have so many questions. So we're going to take one more caller before we continue. Caller, are you on the air? Caller, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Hello.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, brother? This is Lennon.
Hey, Brother Lennon. Brother Lennon, peace. How you doing, good brother?
I'm blessed. And Brother Sevan, I have one major question I got to ask Brother Sevan. This is one of the most important questions I could ask at this time.
Please.
Sevan, how can I get your autograph? All right, I just want to send some love and some positivity, because we were chatting, me and Sevan, we were chatting through Skype during the break, and I just really believe that this is a cosmic event that's taking place right now, and I just want to send that energy out to the both of you brothers. You're very courageous, and then also to everyone who's going to be listening to this. And thank you, Curtis, for having this venue, and thank you, Sevan, for enlightening us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, beloved. Always a pleasure. Oh, but you'll be here next week. Or you just don't know it yet.
All right. Let's take it. I'll be listening.
Much love, brother. Thank you so much. And, we're going to move on to our next caller. Caller from the 718 area code. Hometown, 718. Caller, are you there?
Brother Curtis, it's a pleasure to speak with you.
Brother, how you be, brother?
Yes, this is Veracana 23. Sevan, it's a pleasure. I've been following your work. Lennon Honor, he's a family member. He put me onto your stuff, and I gotta say, your material is off the hook.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
But I definitely got a question. I'm sure you gentlemen are familiar with. I can't think of the name off the tip of my tongue, but there's a star cluster in the region of space that's basically in the exact shape of the Eye or the Eye of Horus. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? It was recently. Oh yes, please.
No, actually, most of the star information that I have in regards to the Egyptology is only within the 3 stars of Sirius A, B, and C. Only because that being the focal point in their energy.
Okay. Well, I asked the question anyway. This is like a recently discovered star cluster by NASA, and some of the Kemetic lecturers talked about it. So I figure, okay, me being a pretty, fearless, maybe sometimes reckless person, I said, let me see if I can astral project over there and see what's going on. So I did that before bedtime, and, my astral vision still isn't quite as, developed, so I wasn't sure if I made contact. But anyway, during the night when I was sleeping, before I woke up, I must have contacted something because I heard a voice, and they basically just came right in and said they want me to be their spokesman. And I said, and I just woke up, and I said, well, they got a lot of nerve. They wanna like try to recruit someone. They can't even show a name, can't even show their face or body. So I ain't make no agreement. So I was just kind of curious what you think about that.
Well, I've had, I definitely have my own sets of different things happening, especially being approached by, they kind of know who they're dealing with. And really when I approached this, I approached it more from a protective standpoint. But as far as interfacing with the stars, if that's the ability that you have, brother, I definitely would want to encourage you to explore that energy further. Now, here's what we say. Like anything, we can't avoid anything. If you avoid something this lifetime, you'll be facing it the next lifetime. So I'm an observer. And so when something's like, I went to a world the other night, and maybe this will put some light on it. About 4 nights ago, I went to this world called Razu. And I remember the world because I asked the person there what world I was in. So I commenced to observe the world, and I watched that these people were getting ready to go to war, and they were a darker skin tone. And so I went to what was, I don't even think their leader, but their commander, who was very strong. You could just see it within his whole bone structure and with everything. And I was attempting to convince him to not go to war. And they were very aggressive even after a certain point from continuing to ask them to not go to war until I had to basically leave. And when I woke up, I carried a lot of energy from that dimension that I was on for about at least 2 hours. It's just one of those things when your soul is somewhere and you're there, and when you come back into this realm, you leave a trace. And you're saturated in it. And I sat back for a moment to see what was going on deeper, and I realized that their war, and I don't know why we're having this part of the conversation, but again, it'll bring light to certain things. Their war is actually between black and white. So they're still, because it's not black and white from the level of positive and negative. It's like melanin dominant versus melanin recessive. Again, like we haven't got enough of it.
Wow.
And then the most interesting thing is that they were both practicing negativity. So that's what kind of summed it up. And I realized even within certain pinpoints, certain turning points, especially within individuals' career, where when they couldn't bring the destruction that they wanted to, that's when their spiritual career was kind of over. And so I would be careful only with the beings of seeing which ones want you to engage in some type of battle and things like this, just to understand, what you're actually battling against or what you're standing up for. But as far as if something's coming to you and say, we want you to be liaison of knowledge, and we want you to be a person to bring forth knowledge, there can never be a more noble task, because we're a little short on knowledge right now. We just are. We're as the black community continues to come together, and as all communities come together, we will see now that people will start becoming, because there's certain parts of this that we all need to formulate, and that's why I'm more in I'm more in strategy mode most of the time, and I'm looking for others that like to stay in that mode too, because, you know, these beings, they reside in the fourth dimension, so their number is also 8, just to kind of sum up some things, just in case you're seeing numbers.
Mm-hmm.
On the fourth dimension, this is called the box. They're masters of the cube. This cube is shaped like a chessboard. It's 8 by 8, a 64-bit cube, and this is why they have a lot in computers. They deal with this type of structure. And so their emulation within our society allows us to have to get to a point where we put our guard up. And maybe I'll just conclude it with that. Is so when they're making transitions to you because a node in your brain is open, something is open in your brain where you're able to make that contact, which we want this to be open. You still play observer, like talk for what? You don't close the conversation. It's kind of interesting. And then we're scared of nothing, and no one can force us to do anything. And that's the way you approach this. And so that's the pointers that I could give you, brother.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll definitely try again to see if I can tap into that region of space, and maybe I could get some more.
Well, yeah, and report back to the resistance. Let me give you the website, because we haven't put the website out there at all tonight. And just in case some have to go to bed because they have to do something tomorrow, it's www. The words, that's THEWORDS, the words, .ning, NING.com. So it's thewords.ning.com. And we're looking to move things and put ourselves into another network, but, you know, it's all going to come in time. When everyone wants to save Earth and their children, we're here.
I very much appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much, Sevan. And also, Brother Curtis, thank you very much.
Thank you for calling in, brother. Peace and love. Okay, we're going to move on to our next caller. We have a caller from the 518 area code, upstate New York. Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Yes. Hello, brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Peace and love to all those in attendance. I want to thank y'all first and foremost for just a wonderful job that y'all doing. And to Brother Sevan, I was talking to him earlier on Facebook. I know he didn't have enough time. I was unaware that he had a radio show to attend, and I was asking him a couple of questions. And most of it was out of like self-interest, but also concern with my father. And one of the questions was about a deity that I came across reading an article about the Masonic order, and there was a deity named Japulan or whatever it was. Now, I was asking him about like a breakdown of the name, because I wanted to know if it was linked or related to any kind of negative being or entity, out of like concern for my father, because he's heard a lot of rumors, and he became interested in being a Mason, and I wanted to know that at the end of it all and at the end of the road, is he aligning himself with anything that may be malicious or negative?
As being a Mason?
Yes.
Here's what I say, because some of us are born in it and not sworn in it. Whatever the Masons set out to do, they utterly failed. So I'll just leave it at that. Because in the beginning, it started off with one idea, and that was a long time ago. And then it was infiltrated. And then what came out of it, it's a mess. You know, they'll explain on their own. Like, these people, they're not hiding anymore. And that's why I said, when you go to people's pictures and things and then their Facebook and stuff, you see they're not hiding. You're just not looking. And so when it comes to Jah, Jah this is now, when you look in the Bible, you see you got men like Nehemiah. He's a servant of Aya, which is Jah. Aya is a J. Then you got Ezekiel. He's a servant of El, right? So these titles in the end, Aya and El, signify father, basically. But you still know you're talking about a Sumerian father. You see what I mean? And that's what I was telling you on Facebook. Like, if you talk about a chief, you talk about a king. Each of these come from different segments, and so you're referring to one of them, but in their family. So you can't say everyone's an El. That's just only for those Elohim. You see what I mean? But that's their title. And then when you say Elohim, you didn't say anything. You just said like Mr. Now you got to give it a name. So you're saying Elohim, whatever. So with Aya or Jah, their God is a bull. That's Mithras, and On is the unit, the unit of energy. It's used to drive the word. Basically, how this works is that if you look at all units of energy, they contain On, orgon, tachyon, electron, neutron, proton. They all have ON in it. And then when you look at the words of creation, it's creator, originate, or means gold. And then so when you put those together, you got or and you got on, and then you put an I in the middle, you got Orion. And then when you divide it again, you got or and you got ion. So what happens is that within the language itself, man, Blair was on it today, man. He had cracked the code, man. He even cracked my, I'm a code cracker, like we say. We used to sit back and really crack codes. But when I was looking at a code that he cracked on the word, it really, really took me to another level. I was trying to find it right now, but I can't find it here. But basically what I'm saying is that within these words are units of power and energy that belong to certain groups and certain factions. When you give a person a name, because a parent thinks that they have this idea that you name the child, but really the child is named by the controller, for better lack of words. That way it's cataloged properly. Just like they say in some of the ancient books that man didn't have fingerprints, it was a product of some type of new integration with what they're doing with organic vessel, with the human being. Still understanding that what we're talking about, if we just say the Most High, the stages in between that definitely unravel a person unlocking organic technology and understanding how to use it. But the thing is that we know for sure now what the human race and most creatures that contain that life force inside of them is always able to anchor to is that the soul can't be even measured in a beaker. It goes right through. It's made by the Creator. And so that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in none of the pantheisms and the names and their stories. Because what I've learned at this point, which probably took me multiple lives, seeing the data that I'm carrying now, is that it doesn't get anyone anywhere. But back here again, with a bad memory loss and born into, you're born outside the bloodline now. And that's what I wanted to say about a lot of individuals that are going to be coming forward, especially in a moment here, is that they're carrying the last name of very strong things that have incarnated on this dimension. And they just don't know it. And that's the part of understanding how this controller really works, and something that we can never really tune off, is because when you see when you look at certain things, and you don't look to judge, but you see exactly what kind of energy the person's carrying and where their energy is off. And this is all the stuff that comes along with, again, obviously I'm 31 in this world, but, I don't believe that this type of data is really accessible by a person who's been through this lifestyle, maybe one time. And so when I look within my name, I see a lot of stuff that could have probably got us in trouble, as I always say, and I'm a third. And, they say sometimes it's sin passed down from the father to the son. I believe that in the essence, if the father doesn't leave a legacy that's clear for the son to follow and challenging, then he probably will get off track. And so, and we can obviously see that from our forefathers, there's been a disconnection from information. People should just understand that when they were reading, first of all, there was no writing inside the pyramid. But once they did discover that there was, once they did get to a point where there was writing inside there, only 2,000 years later, nobody understands what is actually being said. So what kind of disconnection goes on with mankind, where all of a sudden a language is created, and then we walk back around it a couple thousand years later, we don't even know what it says. This is the clear part of history that's letting us know that we've been disconnected at certain points from true knowledge, and to reveal it here. Not to reveal it, but to actually bring it forward here. From my understanding, the actual pyramids themselves were, in essence, keeping this grid controlled the way that it is, that it was plugging up the energy and the ley lines that are here on the earth. So the earth is gotta, like a Hulk, break free of all these churches and all these things that are sitting on top of ley lines, because the Masons and the Jesuits were building all of these buildings, and they knew how to test the ley line, and they would build the building right on top, put the spire right underneath the ley line, and then have the energy shooting out through the cross. They were taking bells, and this is, again, higher levels of information. They were taking the bells on the churches, and when the bell rings, another bell, because the bell sends a wave and a signal, another bell will ring and catch that signal. All the way into the moment that it reached into the Vatican, so that they could keep channeling the energy that their vessels, which were the priests trained to do this, were taking the confession, then sleeping underneath beds with the spire, dreaming about people's wickedness, and sending that energy so they can keep channeling into this being. See, these guys they're into something else. And the reason why this is all foreign, because you make up the mass. When you stop making up the mass, which is what the Egyptians say, they're playing with mass, they call it Ma. It's Ma's sons, Masons. So when you're playing around with mass, you're playing around with ignorant dough. We figured out at this point we don't want to play. We don't want to control things. We don't want to get worshipped. We just want to see the galaxy. Show me the real substance. I'm tired of the sideshows.
Absolutely.
Very understood. And then thanks a lot for your time. I'll seek you out further because I also wanted to find some kind of relation between chakra gate opening and the tetragrammaton. But I'll highlight you later with that.
Thank you so much for calling in. Peace and love to you as well, brother. Excellent questions. Excellent questions. And we're going to take another caller, one last caller. We have a caller, once again, hometown number 718 area code. Caller, are you there?
Yes, hello?
Peace. How you be, brother?
How you doing, Curtis? How you
doing well, brother.
I have a question about the book that I'm reading, the code, the Matrix Code. You said in a chapter that the HSM, how do you activate that? Heart, soul, and mind. You said you activate.
Heart, soul, and the mind?
Yeah.
Man, when I personally, because I only can just speak on that from my experience, when I activated the heart and the soul and the mind, and I was completely in a very humble state, I realized that I wasn't in control. Basically, that's basically like, sometimes you go through life, and that's why I say I'm not an atheist. Like, people sometimes get my work confused, and they're like, man, he's just talking about this guy, that guy. No, we just know who they are. But as far as my belief system, I'm focal pointing to the Most High with no filters, and I've seen it directly interact with my life in strange ways, but not too much in the flesh, meaning that these things don't take physical form. They don't give you their name. They don't want to be worshipped. It's like, look, man, I'm spending a little bit of time with you for a moment, and here's what you need, but if I help you to, you'll never get the point. And you can imagine that that's what the phase would pretty much consist of anyway. If you get too much help, you don't get the point. And so when the person, and this is maybe a great point, when a person attaches themselves a hold of a God, they're doing that because they want help, right?
Okay, yeah.
But then what that becomes is this relationship, a symbiotic relationship, or actually codependent relationship, where the person is constantly asking for minute and mundane things because they're really turned off. They're really all material. So what they're asking for has to appeal to a material God, not to the Most High. This is foolishness. Again, the height of man's knowledge is still foolishness to the Most High. So the first thing that has to be done is a discarding of all of the filters, as I call them again, all of this extra stuff that we're putting in between the Most High. And then there's the knowledge of turning the body back on because you're in the cube. There's a connection with this body that's from a magnetic silver line, a cord, that no matter what, until it's really gone back into the earth, then you're always connected to it. Now, there's a lot of things that I do want to talk about, but I don't fearmonger, meaning that I can tell you about some things that are very, very deep that we plan on spearheading at a certain point. But to understand the construct of the dimension and how many angles is tied down for an individual who hasn't turned on their body would drive them mad, meaning that they will feel completely depressed that they couldn't do anything. And that's what this idea of activating the body, which I know brothers like yourself is interested in, is turning on, because none of this is fascinating from a data standpoint to me. I know what they're doing and what they're up to from 60 million years ago. But that's not fascinating to me. What's fascinating to me is the activation of who I am and the people that are around me, the we, as I call it. And then, because once we turn on, then we could create whatever reality we want. So why should we spend all our day trying to figure out the reality? We need to just figure out how we're going to actually bring those things about. And so that's really what we're focused around, too, what we do. As I say, if you don't see the portal, be the portal. We introduce high levels of information so that it begins to massage and work out a person's brain to thinking into the type of height that is necessary to actually accomplish some things on a dimension where there's a ruling being that understands all of that. But one thing it doesn't understand is it doesn't understand us. Obviously, it doesn't, because if it did, it would have surrendered already. And that's the truth. If he spoke on this line tonight, if they understood what they were really dealing with, they would have already surrendered. Because now the tides have turned. Like today, I know more than anything that the tides had turned already, and that's why even our website went down today. And here's what you always have to reinforce yourself with, just so the members understand this on the air. This is how you really guard yourself from everything as far as negative energy concerned, because it really tears them up. All you have to say is everything. No matter when something happens that you feel is negative, you say everything will work out in my favor. Everything. You have to say everything twice. And what that does is it immediately stops you, because there's no payoff for you being upset and mad about whatever, or just you have to be, for better lack of words, sometimes very cool about how you handle situations when they immediately approach you. Because if you have a lot of power, right, you'll blast someone then. And that's what also holds us back from getting the chakra centers and everything turned on, is that if someone makes you upset and you don't understand your power, you take them off the dimension. And that starts a whole different type of path that you don't want to get started. And that's also what's happened with individuals. Because here's the thing. If you pay someone, like individuals have done, if you pay someone to bring bad on someone else, you just tied that person down also that did that work for you, and you've tied down yourself. So individuals who traffic in this type of things, like a warlock, like we were talking about, they've already know this, so they're really running from karma through time, which is what these guys, they think they're so smart. They've been running through time to escape what is ultimately going to happen to an individual that uses negative energy or positive energy in the wrong way. And so hopefully that clears some things up.
One more thing. The foods that we eat, does that have an effect on how you activate the body? Like you said, Coca-Cola, also would...
Definitely, the Coca-Cola, what it'll do is the pineal gland in itself is sitting in the quadrant of the brain as the egg. Originally, there was a lot of concepts about it being calcified, but what I understood from looking into deeper side, that if it didn't have that stuff around it right now, then people would... have already gone into the phase that may be premature for them. So what happens with the egg is it cracks. And what Coca-Cola does is it starts to soften it up so it can crack. Because anytime you see a lightning bolt, which is a sign of the SS, it's a sign of artificial pineal gland. Artificial activation is what it's called. It's a bolt. Because they figured out how to take not only the energy from lightning, but Tesla energy and things like that, fire it into the brain and crack open the pineal gland. And so this is Coca-Cola is the herb that allows this process to begin to be sped up, but still happen naturally, because you'll start experiencing within your sleep large amounts of paranormality. Like you'll just get more data about who you are. You'll dream in high definition, or I say you'll dream in 1080p.
Wow.
Okay, thank you, man.
Especially now, and I do want to make that clear, because people trying this like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's not going to work. The planet wasn't lined up the correct way. Not saying that people didn't have experiences and things back then, but if you are applying some of these remedies that we're talking about now, a lot of these are just really becoming able to affect the body because of the actual galactic lineup that we're dealing with at this point.
Thank you for calling in, caller.
Thanks,
once
brother,
again.
thanks. All right.
Thank you for calling in. Excellent questions. And yes, very powerful information that we've been getting this evening. Oh, I love this. But we're living. This is a question that I wanted to ask, Brother Sevan. Now we're living in the day and age now of high tech, if you will. Okay, where in situations like this, through the use of technology, it's made the world smaller, if you will. When I was coming up, if I wanted to talk to someone in Costa Rica, the UK, or Japan, I either had to make a very expensive phone call or write a letter that would take forever and a day to get there. But now, with the advent of technology, would you say, in terms of the changes that we're going through now and the coming changes, would you say that technology is either a quote-unquote blessing or a quote-unquote curse? Or is it an asset?
Well, it's like asking a very sensitive question. It's kind of like this. I just call it after the apple. What happens here is that I'm sure, like when we first began, that we were using our minds. Like if we wanted to contact someone, and we were like, it's going to go right through the mind. And we were all, we moved in and out of each other. We all felt each other, for better lack of words. And now, since we've got our silicone friend, what I've started to notice is there's two ways of thinking about this. Because I normally, to reduce negative energy, I will always find the good in everything. They say you'll sin very fast if you can find the good within everything. And what I started noticing is man's an abuser, and woman too. So anytime I say man, I mean both of them, both man and woman, and they're abusers. And so the moment that something comes along good, they tend to use it to the point where, with computers, it makes them exceptionally lazy and not able to think for themselves. But then there's another layer of this, because the computer is not dead. It's alive. It's a silicone-based chip inside this, and we built all of this equipment around it to understand that chip in there. And there's some of us that could just touch this machine and the chip talks to us. And we don't know what that really is. We don't know if there's been a blending with some type of bionic being or something going on. All we know is we just want to sin. And so the thing is that what's happening is it takes a small row, or I guess they call that a row in the back of a boat, the thing that guides the boat. It only takes a small oar, I guess they call it. It only takes a small oar to steer the whole boat. And so what they've done now, anticipating that the internet was going to be a tool for them to continue to keep people distracted because they knew that they were going to have to create more of this type of relationship between a person getting their time wasted, answering a 10-minute quiz about what is their Asian name on Facebook, this type of waste of time. But now we have access to this machine in for a moment, because we don't want to get attached to it either. Like even one phase that I went through where it took energy from me to be around the computer. I've learned how to balance out that energy now, as all things can be balanced out through the mind. But what's happened is that we have an opportunity to use this version of technology and to shoot things to another level as far as getting the message out, and then get ready to unplug altogether and use a different level of consciousness for those that are on light consciousness. I'm not talking about the spooky hive mind that the Queen wants to do, about when someone's vibing with someone, you can be inside of the Cipher network and you get to enjoy everything that's in the collective mind of everyone there, because everyone's just chilling. And that is the type of flavor that I believe that we bring to everything. So why not to space? Like the Russian idea of space, they sent monkeys first. I think they were smarter. And now, the ideas of what they sold to us as children, like my generation, again, they told us that we were going to be flying by the year 2000. And, I took that serious. So when we weren't flying, I was depressed, and I had no choice but to, as I talked about in the video, Adeptus Majus, but I had no choice but to go into the physical world and reach heights then. And so that's when I met a lot of the Nazis and the Pussies and all these individuals. And when they see me again, and they will, as we always say, we'll be seeing you. When they see me again, then they'll know that in that special time, in Terrence Howard and all these individuals that we've had in talking with each other for a moment, and how it all ran full circle, because each of those individuals sold out. And if they think that the dimension is going to close before the actual truth in its entirety comes out, then they didn't understand the being that they were dealing with. Because the being that they were dealing with is a liar. So in the end, it's a deceiver. So if it just so happens to be me bringing to everyone that deception, oh well, meaning that if some people thinking they're going to escape the dimension and no one really knows who they are, and they're delivering this message and taking all these good people's money, like it's some type of game when people are playing around with people's ascension process, telling them you can give them ascension and give them angelic package, shame on you. That's the thing. Like, this is not. See, I do deal at times. I've seen those that are vigilant, Meaning I've seen those that protect things like what's going on right now, and they're on a whole different level of how they deal with things. And that's just the next phase that these people that have been practicing will see, like all of this, doing their rituals on TV, as one of the brothers was talking about. Like I definitely seen Madonna get on the stage and walk down the 13-step pyramid. They said they just recently did one with Fierce. They definitely did one as my brother Lennon put together that Rihanna. Man, that Rihanna changed lives. Like anyone who was really that Rihanna series, anyone who really was kind of tapped in when we saw Anubis, it was a wrap. Like when we saw that this expression that this girl had made in this video, and how she had been abused because she was open, wanted to try something new, and how Jay-Z and those individuals took her and put her into the cult and had her dealing with this being, that was one thing, because we were able to see that, those of us that we didn't even have to have our eyes completely open, or as my friends say, our lights on. We didn't even have to have the lights on to see that there was something going on there that was dark and dank. And then when I got to the point in the video where the being showed his face, that's what really, really activated something within me, because I knew that I wasn't going to let something like that keep getting a hold to our youth. Like, you don't give your kids to dogs. And that's really, part of what's been going on here is that while everyone's asleep, our children are getting abused. While everyone's still yawning to wake up to figure out if it's going to be correct to say something about this and to come forward or to give to these people, I'm going to just watch. They don't understand that everything that they're doing right now is showing, despite everything they've done in their life, if they were really the truth or not. Because when you heard it, it didn't matter what you was doing before. It matters what you do now. That's the other thing about what these beings attempt to do with the psyche of the individual, is to make them think that when you get involved in something, you can't change. Man, that was what was so unique about the human being, because their DNA changed to whatever they thought that they wanted to be next. It was only the reptilian being that couldn't change. He was kind of stuck. Not our fault. You talk to the Creator about that. So the thing is that with our consciousness, we can change at any moment. So when some people ask me, so what do I do now? I've done all these rituals and stuff. I say disavow, and then go against it, because that shows, like Blair was talking about, that shows that you've learned your lesson, and you're willing to show, you got to repeat it one more time to show that you've learned your lesson. So there's no better way than to go against it. Once I saw what was going on within the Cabal, as it's called, when I came out of the Cabal for being given that energy and strength and the wisdom and knowledge and the ability to make it out by the Most High, the least that I could give was to let my fellow brothers know about it or sister before they walked into it. Like this gentleman is like, okay, let me give you your Sumerian name, let me give you your Apollyon name, let me give you your voodoo name. This is in the angelic stimulus package. And now this is only one individual that I'm highlighting. There's many more people as I continue to gain momentum, because I just haven't got to certain things, because that's why we're really doing video, which is excellent that, definitely Ton Network and your network being able to pick up the content is going to be powerful, because we really work more with advanced learning techniques, because people don't really have much time right now because they're on the rat race, but they want to jump off. And that's why most people's question always is, how do I turn all this into money? And it's just, you got to start seeing past that. And as we always say, that's wealth in itself is a trickle down of what you really could get from having yourself completely remembered. And I know there were some questions in the chat room.
Oh, yes, and we're going to take a question from the chat room. The first question was, how do you keep that balance, between the computer and being away from the computer? What can you do to stop the computer from absorbing your energy?
Use it to do something constructive. Like all my machines work for me to save the world. And I don't let them run idle. I don't let them work on any type of idle business where it doesn't have anything to do with the Most High. And that's like one of the things, like if that's a person asking me the question directly, because that's a process that has to start taking place. Like I was abruptly ripped from the machine, honestly. Like I'm a computer engineer by trade, so imagine what it was like for me to get away from the computer. But the experience that I had on a spiritual level, I couldn't be around even humans, let alone machines. So But after I was able to settle back in, I realized that it was my intelligence and ability to use the machine that was going to allow this information to get to where it's getting at this point, which is, like I said, people are getting to the information. They're able to come to the site. They're able to link with individuals that are at similar phases. So this is what's really going on now. Honestly, I believe that there's information, especially in a lot of the higher level communities, that there's going to be something of a solar storm that's going to be taking place. And there's always something on the horizon these days on Earth. It's never a dull moment. But it's supposed to be a problem with all electronic devices after that point. They're giving people a million reasons on just why to get tuned into something else higher. That way, that whatever happens, you're straight. And so I personally feel like we're using everything that's presented to us right now, because if we wanted to ascend, we could have already ascended a long time ago. We already ascended. People that are on a high level of thought and understand their level of clarity and purity already ascended. Well, that question is over with. So when you ask yourself, am I here because, no, you're here for something else. And that's what the wild card is, again, like we talk about in a person's life, where they can continue to become something new. It's like, well, today, yesterday, I was really nothing. Today, I'm an enlightener. Read a couple of books, got tapped in, tuned in, cleaned up my body, cleaned up my mind, used the data that I already had, understood the code, put the cipher in my mind, got rid of all the extra stuff, got rid of the bad energy, and now here I am. And then this is all now happening, too. And that's the main thing about all this that we're talking about right now, is people shouldn't feel like, okay, I wonder what's going to be on the next show. That's how you know that you're not ready. It's like, okay, we should be thinking, and this is just to check your thought. It's immediately thought should be, okay, you know what, I'm with this. I'm with these brothers. I'm trying to figure out what can I really do? What do I have at my disposal? People think that their money means something. Your money doesn't mean nothing. We don't need your money. Sometimes we just need your assistance, your support, your telling other people. Everyone can do something. But if you find yourself doing nothing, that they say, the white line in the middle of the road is the wrong place to drive. You have to do something. And so that's really, and I feel kind of more than ever within the human race when this first began, because the concepts were new. And sometimes, you have to be the liaison and introduce certain things, but, the idea is not so original in itself. There's nothing new under the sun. And to just kind of change gears, we're in the third dimension, and we're under a sun. And that allows us to be influenced by that sun. And we're under a moon. Like when you go outside, you're under something. And this is no different than a person being in like a bunk bed where someone's sleeping on top of you. And this is what we have to look at in life, that there's a basic principle to how things work here. And if we just go into that, like, okay, what's the sun? Energy. What's the moon? Energy. Two different kinds of energies. Instead of saying, that's Samael, he's the Lord of the darkness, and he does this. And see, that it gets tainted. And even in interfacing with pure being, it said, man, there's no limit to what people will invent about something when they are not right themselves. And so, that's something that we're definitely paying attention to now.
Okay, and we're going to take another question from the chat room, and this one is, earlier in the broadcast, you mentioned the sound Om means the end instead of Om as the sound of creation. Please explain that.
Yeah, I mean, Om is, as they say, is in the Greek, it's Omega. It said, behold, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So again, the dimension, the creator dimension toots the horn a little bit and says, I'll be starting this with the A, and I'll be ending this with what you see as, okay, look, if you can put this down on paper, you can understand it from this level. When you put A, like if you type in an A on your computer, you see it's supposed to have two lines on the bottom, like the Arial A doesn't, and that's why even within what language is being used. Now notice that Arial is the #1 font, but Arial is an angel. It's an Aryan angel. So why do they use that font to write everything in? You see, this is just to let the mind think a little bit deeper. So when you see an A, there's supposed to be two lines on the bottom of it, right? And then when you see an Omega, when you see the Omega Greek symbol, it's that same two lines on the bottom, but a hump, or it looks like an explosion rather than actual arrow. And you would just have to write this down on the paper to see the difference. And so that one area where things start is known as the masculine. It's the straight line. It's the phallus, as they love to call it. And then the last one is the curvier or the ohm, as they call it, or the womb. That is the end of the cycle. And then this is how the cycles rotate back within each other. And so that's pretty much what's going on with the ohm. And plus, when the frequency itself is a roam, meaning that it's like when you say you're roaming in data. You're not really at a thought. And so this actual frequency, if you were surrounded by you wouldn't be able to really access your mind, and that's why it's called the end. And so what the higher levels of knowledge are about is to be able to tap into frequencies that you still remain conscious in, and if that sums things up. But it's easier to look at this. It's easier to look at this in the book. There's some illustrations of the and the A, which is the symbol of the deity that is pervading itself over the dimension at this point. As the lady was saying earlier, and the elder told her that the earth she's playing host. It's like a beautiful woman with a few extraterrestrial beings, wanting to hang out.
I see. And we're going to grab another question from the chat room, brother. And this one is, the listener says they remember you speaking briefly on cosmic effects and happenings in 2010. Could you expand more on that?
Yeah, definitely. What's basically going on here as when you look at the mind clock, what it does show us towards the end of time that there's a big cog that drives a small cog. And it's just like a bicycle. So as that big cog is turning that small cog is it's spinning really fast. And so this is the area of time that we're actually in where things are starting to happen fast. Data is starting to come so fast we can't even record it. For those of us that are especially starting to awake, it's like we jump in a river and the river just takes us. It's like we believed in something yesterday and now we don't even believe in it today anymore. It's that kind of transformation taking place. And people need to understand they can see it all around that. Obviously these people are right at least about that timing going on, because if you think, some people have stayed in religion for like 10 years to leave it in one day. That is just kind of how it happens. But if you think about it, sometimes then whatever they pick up next, they don't even believe in that for maybe a few months, and then they're on to the next one. And then pretty soon it's like every day, and then pretty soon it's nothing at all. They start believing in self again. And that's really what you see within this transformation of the earth, is that people are starting to make the transformation of believing in self, but the thing is that the emulator has given them a false idea of self. So what we have to do is turn them back on to their history, their real history, not his story, but the real history, the annuals, or the archives, as they call it, the archives. So what that'll do is it will give them all the data that they need to reformulate their own DNA that's broken off and fractaled and destroyed, meaning that once a person has the code to the matrix, the actual cipher itself, which is partly revealed on the website and partly revealed on the site, the whole world, even their own, begins to unravel. Mine unraveled in such a strange way, I'm still trying to figure out if I somehow drop myself into a world that I manifested on my own. And the only way that I know that that's not possible is because the individuals that I'm around at times are their own separate beings. And I'm confident of that. Like I'm talking to Brother Curtis, and Brother Curtis got his own thing going on. Brother Curtis is not created in my mind. But it's really interesting, like when you start syncing your name up and seeing, who you are, where you've been born at, and things like that, you see some really strange stuff. And then it starts to let you know, man, you're just as much as a part of this whole thing is some of the most influential people in the world. The only thing is they're in the know. They know where their energy and power lies, and they use it.
True indeed. And our next question, brother, is what sounds can be used to activate the pineal gland or the third eye in meditation?
There's some sounds that are uploaded on the website in the downloadable tools. There's one in particular called 6E in the air, which is the frequency of the pineal gland. That'll take you there. It takes a minute, though. You know, what happens with most people's chakra centers, they're dirty, so they need to pick up crystals first and lay the crystals on their chakras while they're going to sleep so the crystal can clean it out. Crystals are clean chakras, but they won't really activate them. Crystals are, you know, they're pure beings, so you really have to watch how you approach them if you expect for them to work. But when you put them on and they cleanse it, and then it's ready to start becoming open. And then, so 6E in the air, and there's a whole chakra lineup with 7 frequencies there available for download. And you can definitely take those and relax and allow them to start working on the chakra system.
Ah, I see. And with that, we're going to take another short musical break, give everybody a chance to digest this powerful information and stand up and stretch a little bit. And we will be back shortly at song's end. But please call in with your questions at 646-649-1987. That's 646-649-1987. And we're talking to Brother Sevan, the author of The Code to the Matrix. We will be back shortly. And we are back. You know, and hope everybody got stretched out and ready to take it on home with some more powerful information. And for those who are asking who that cut was by, that was done by Brother Ankh-Ra, you know, who has a very, very powerful CD out called Higher Consciousness. That's Brother Ankh-Ra, and many of you may recognize him from making of the band. He was P. Diddy's musical director. You know, so I encourage everyone to get that CD. Very, very good music. You know, and Brother Sevan, we're going to start off by taking a call. You know, we've got a couple of more calls that came in on the switchboard. Okay, so we're going to start off by taking our caller from the 770 area code. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Good evening, sister. How are you?
I am good. Hi, Sevan. This is Umi.
Hey, Umi. How are you?
I am good. I am listening, and I think what I'm going to have to do is go way back in some experiences and, you know, tie in and make a lot of connection to stuff, because you're putting down a whole lot of really stuff that makes the mind says, I have to give this some thought. So it's really a call to say thank you, and again, I'm really happy for, you know, where you're going with all of this. So.
And, you know, I like when I sent the email, like I said, I still remember laying on the table for activation.
I know. I'm sorry, that broke up a bit. I didn't hear you.
I said that I was still, when I had emailed you, like I said, I still remember laying on the table for activation. Umi's actually, she lives in Atlanta, and she does a lot of work with energy and healing. And I think that was probably like 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago that I was able. About 3 years ago, I was able to come down her path, and she was able to do some energy work on me. And man, you know, that I guess started more of the chain reaction that, you know, we're definitely experiencing now.
You are just fascinating me, because I used to get so many visits, and when I listened to your show last week and you were saying people had stopped getting visits for a while, I said, wow, that was me, because I was having visits from beings and things so often. And I mean, you're just making a lot of connections for me, and I am really so happy, sincerely, for what you're doing. Really, I am. And I just wanted to make a call a little. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I appreciate it, Umi.
You're welcome. And I just wanted to give a little addition for those people who might not have time to constantly, you know, do the crystals with their chakras. What I usually suggest to people is that you place in between the box spring and the mattress the different stones associated with that particular chakra. So while you're sleeping, you know, you're responsible to actively work on yourself, but at least while you're sleeping, something will, you know, continue to happen. So that's my
Excellent. Excellent, sister. Thank you for calling in.
I think about those coils in the mattress will probably even amplify the energy of it. I'm going to have to try that tonight.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I think about it. That might be for me.
Or you take a shower and just envision as you shower. These are just little quick things. Just envision as you shower that you're kind of washing them off a bit, But thank you again. I just wanted to say that and to say thank you to Sevan. And
you sound like a future guest, sister. Please leave your information here with us on Occult Science Radio, so you would be able to bring forth more of that very powerful information that you just shared.
No problem. Definitely. I just remember to Sevan when you was on the table, your solar plex chakra was just. Remember how your stomach was just jumping off the wall? It was unbelievable because there's 4 particular stones that I discovered, which are Tibetan, what's the name of the thing? Smoky quartz, double terminators. And I found when I use those 4 on that spot for anyone, it's like unbelievable. So
I
definitely said something. Well, this is snapback, I guess, because now we see what happened. Like, sometimes a person can say, this will work, but then, this is some of the finishing results of those type of activations. But yeah, definitely we have Sister Umia on the show and spreading the knowledge. Just someone who's been in the metaphysical field for, what is it now, Umi? How long have you been in the metaphysical field? 20 years, 30 years?
It's about 20. Well, let me go back and verify a couple of things you said. Remember, I came out of the York situation. So what you said about Malachi York, I'm not afraid of them. It's true. People need to pay attention, and you and I know the connections and all the people. So that part of it is really, really so true. So I came out of that about 20 years ago, and I figured I can't look in that direction, so I need to look someplace else. And then I started having visits from different beings and so many things, and it just took me, to the rest of my journey. Still journeying.
Yeah, like I say, it's ever question. I was interested in finding out because what I've been able to pinpoint is in 2003. That's how I'm going to when Dr. Blair comes on the show. I had to be able to talk to him for a moment. But he was saying that a second son had moved into the system around 2003. And if I'm not mistaken, that was right around the time that a lot of my personal spiritual energy, especially from my dream world and things, just cut off. And when I started talking to other individuals, they had that same issue. It was like,
me too.
He was talking for a moment and when he brought that up, because I just listened to his recording today, and when he brought that up about the second son entering into this system in 2003, I'm more than willing to connect it too. I just want to talk to him a little bit more because, Dr. Blair, I think individuals like this is if someone is going to look to as a role model and collect their information and listen to what they're saying, there he is. He's like my father or something. And I never say that about anyone. But his message is so clear. So you would always tell an individual that's telling the truth about how long they pause. Like he doesn't, when he's talking from him knowing. And that's something that when you study high intellect, they train you to watch for that. Like you have to find out who's lying. And then when I watch individuals like him, and when he starts to talk, he's only holding back from telling people everything that's going on here from the sheer fact of, honestly, I'm sure it's really more along the lines of them, one, not understanding it, two, him telling people things that are going to give, a little bit more attention to him, but it's unnecessary to get to the people because they won't do nothing with it anyway. And that's why I'm really more on the level of, because I know that this age is going to bring people together and tear people apart. That's really what this is about.
Yeah, it creates such disturbances, for those people that don't understand. And someone in the chat room said, you must have your own experiences. And that's the key. When you have an experience that you can relate to, then it makes sense when someone else, like you, get up and speak. You can say, okay, I see where that's coming from.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, indeed. But thank you so much for calling in, sister. Like I said, leave us your information so we can talk further.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Peace and blessings. Bye-bye. And we're going to move on to our next caller. We have a caller from the 703 area code. The 703 area code. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. This is Josh. I want to thank Brother Sevan for all the information you've been giving me. I have two questions. My first question is this UFO disclosure I've been hearing about. What is your take on that?
What I know is that, okay, a lot of this stuff is just really stall tactics because, of course, we know that, in the deeper circles, they talk about the UFO stuff all the time, and now these circles are not even so deep. The Theosophical Society is passing out so much information about the extraterrestrial involvement here on Earth to their initiates that it's obvious that the disclosure thing is really for the public to keep stalling them out because they want the shock factor of the actual alien, not even so much as it's not going to be like an invasion. It's going to be an entrance, and there's a difference. An invasion is like all hell breaks loose, big ships uncloak. It's a nightmare. They don't want that version. They want more control by saying, okay, we have contact with extraterrestrial life now running our government. We're now going to a galactic level. And so the Disclosure Project is to start the seeding for that process, even though I don't see the whole thing coming to play until after 2012, because as I say, the Earth itself is going to experience a change, but it is going to continue because nothing really stops continuing, even if it's just a raggedy hunk of rock somewhere out in space with some vermin living on top of it. It's still going to be going on. And what I believe, though, is that there's a big difference between, I know that when life leaves, and, this is kind of deeper to understand, but when I was asking the questions about, so what really happens, and it says the spirit leaves, so every living just dies because it's gone. It doesn't die itself. It's gone. So it's like your body. When your spirit leaves your body appears dead. It's gone. But the spirit is still alive, and that's from what I'm interfacing and attempting to understand from what's giving me information on what is the Earth, what is the transition of the Earth that is going into the Omega, because still understanding the parallel dimension situation that we have going on here, meaning that things will definitely continue in time and continue here on Earth, but what we have an opportunity to do is to take the information that has been trickled now, it's been leaking out of someone's golden pack. And that information is giving us the ability to be able to, it's giving us what they keep calling Prometheus, giving us fire. It's the ability to be higher than the gods. If not like the gods, higher. You see, and that's this whole story of Prometheus stealing the fire from the gods and giving it to humans and becoming punished for that.
Okay. And I have another question about the crystals from the previous call. How would you purchase those crystals?
Me personally, because I have a really, really high connection with crystals, because I love them all. And so what I normally will do is I'll go to I've been personally separated from crystals a little bit because I'm in a foreign country that doesn't really have good mail systems. But what I normally do is I go to eBay. Because,
okay.
you can get a lot of crystal for your buck. What a trade. Like I keep telling people, you're getting a crystal and you're giving them paper. And that's the other thing that I really want, that as the dimension begins to come more into consciousness, that, like when a person does energy work on you, let's just say if you have a Reiki master and they're doing energy work, a real one, and they're doing energy work and cleaning out the chakra, and then you turn around and then give them like $25 or $30 or $50 or even $100, one cannot imagine that they've paid a person for their service. Because you just give a person paper for everything they just gave you. They just gave you love and emotion and energy and everything, and it's like, here's a piece of paper. And that's how money destroys the dimension. That's why money is the root of evil, because it takes the substance to life and turns it into something that is lifeless, because they've cut it already from the tree. It's already dead. You see?
That makes sense.
Ah, I see. Yeah, thank you for calling in, caller. Excellent questions. Very good questions. Truly appreciate
and thanks,
you calling
Josh, for being on the Resistance. I know he's one of the members of the Resistance site.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for calling in, caller.
All right.
Peace and love.
All right, bye.
All right, and we're going to look at our next caller here. We have a caller from the 313 area code. Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there? I guess not. They're doing the wise thing. They're just listening. So we're going to take a couple of questions from the chat room. And the first question is shadow people. What are they, and who are they? And, have you had any experiences with them?
Yeah, I am one. This word shadow is called Obra. See, my last name is Bomar, and this is just something that I started cracking into as I was continuing to crack the matrix and sync up what was going on with me, because that's really where this work should start. You should lay your body on the table in your mind and start working on it. Meaning start working on who you are and upgrading yourself with knowledge and purity. And Obra, which is it's an anagram for part of my last name, actually meant shadow. And I was wondering where all this came from. And I know my grandfather was originally from Madagascar, and that was Lemuria. And I know Lemuria meant ghost world. And so I started tapping a little bit into what was happening. And this really brings up a lot of what this version of mysticism that everyone that's practicing magic, for a better lack of words. When they start dealing with the spiritual world, this is what they're dealing with is the ghost world. This is necromancy. This is Makand, or I believe the book is Aleph Aziz. But this book, anyway, is about opening up a imperfect pentagram or imperfect gate. It's basically a place where dismembered souls go when they imagine that Earth was only a party. And they get to... they end up degenerating their spirit to a certain degree where it becomes dismembered. And again, there's a lot about the esoteric world that is not for that happy-go-lucky New Age movement person. It's rough in there. And so what happens is that with the shadow world, you have certain individuals that when you see their shadow, that's them. So you have individuals that can talk to their shadow. Shadow plays like the witness. It's witnessing going on, but until you understand how to control it, it's just like a dog. It's following things around. And so this is a part of the world where, and there's men that knew how to sit in chambers that will reflect them multiple times, 7, 8, 9 times, and be able to take the reflection and use the reflection. And so this is the cracking into the world of understanding there's more of you than you think. And all on the same, whatever dimension they reside on, they're all on the same corresponding level that you are on here, meaning that if you're enlightened here, you're enlightened in space, for better lack of words. If you're not enlightened here, you're not enlightened in space. So when you refer to your higher self, it doesn't mean that this is a person who knows everything. It's just on the exact same correspondence of whatever your higher self is, whatever dimension your higher self is actually on. And this is when you're getting to understanding. This is the kind of stuff at night that I play around with in images when I build worlds in my mind. And that's the only way you can really start understanding this level of how things work, or else it just sounds like, a lot of long-winded information. But when you put it in an actual picture and you make it all happen within your mind, and you can really see how things come about and how the ladder is ascending and descending and who's going up and who's going down and what these sacred geometry really means and what is this pentagram, what is this hexagram, where does this go, and you start being able to understand how it all works. And that is just part of, I'm not completely sold that all of that is necessary to escape the dimension. This is just for individuals that are like myself that continue to thrive on that type of information. I believe the most simplest individual, as we will see a lot of that simple individual, gets a couple principles and sticks with that, and then they're able to accomplish the ascension process very fast. But what we've now been tasked to doing is answering all the whats, the whens, the wheres, and the whys. And so what we plan to do for at least 30 days was to sit down on a constant recording for 30 days and only sleeping and getting back up and recording again and answering all the world's questions so that it can now get ready to head to the next level, because that's really what starts happening when a person's in meditation. They start to say, well, what is that? And then that stops the meditation. And then when they see a flash or something, when did that happen? Then that stops the meditation. So once the person gets all the answers to this, then they're able to kind of go into peace. And that's just for the person that's very inquisitive, which is always the person who ends up finding out that we're in a matrix.
I see. And the next question is, are actions that follow intuition, actions that we take that are sent, are they related to the third eye?
Actions that we take when they're sent. Okay, now it depends on what kind of actions, because there's a lot of what the ancient knowledge had cracked into, like the Arabiya, or the Rudubillahi min al-Shaitan regime, the whispers of Shaitan. Obviously, this being communicates on a frequency that's higher than the wavelength of the ear is trained to normally hear, and that's why you can use. I have these angels, they call them angel tuners, but you basically ring them and then you see how long you can actually hear the tune coming from them, and it tunes your ear into being able to hear things on another frequency. So because what happens is that there's certain things that can sense off into your mind that sound like a frequency, and your brain knows how to interpret that and interprets it as you think it's your idea. And that's why it's important to keep the ego itself. We have to ride the ego, not destroy the ego. The ego is actually a part of us, but we have to keep it under control. It's an animal. But just as any wild, strong animal, you can ride it anywhere. And the thing is that, so the ego itself has to be tuned, and that allows you to be able to see further into things. I'm kind of I lost my thought there for a moment. Sometimes I do visual, I go into visual imaging sometimes so I can see what I'm attempting to explain, and I have to convert it back into words, and so sometimes that's just a delay. But I think that's the first time I did that in the whole 2 hours and 41 minutes.
Not a problem.
Lost my mind once.
The next question would be, what do you think about the Sanat Kumara?
Yes, see, the Kamarus, because, first of all, America is known as Amaraka, which means the mortal serpent. And the Kamarus were the ones that were indigenous in that land to rule that, and blended with the human population that was there, known as the indigenous people. And so what the Kamarus have decided is that they want to take the surface back. And this is a very long story, because they understand dimensions. So what they've done is they've created other dimensions, as they call spaces in between spaces. They've created these other dimensions to where they're allowed to come very close to our frequency, and that's allowed a lot of contact from their beings to start happening. And those are the beings that tend to reincarnate on this planet as Mayas, or those who take the crocodile fat, Messi. And so what happens is that these individuals, from what I've been able to gather at this point, are just really another crutch. It's another way for man to say something is coming, and this is now the New Age Messiah, probably the second son that we may be having some issues with at this point. Because I'm still at this point, I'm learning a lot myself, especially when it comes to the galactic community. I've just really got invited to the galactic community and being able to observe other worlds, because I understand the art of observation rather than interaction, which is something that we're still learning how to do. It's easier just to say what's going on rather than have your emotions attached, because either way you're not observing anymore. See, what I'm telling people right now is just what's happening, and then because I'm in the primary reality of Earth, this is what I'm going to do about it. That way I'm not found, for better lack of words, guilty of not upholding the innocent, because the strong were created to uphold the weak. Like when I look at yin and yang, I only see strong and weak, and I see the weak is supposed to be there to hold up the strong. It's supposed to be there to actually hold up the weak, and it keeps cycling like that. So I've seen that physically, spiritually, mentally, I'm very strong in this dimension at this point. So that means my only objective here is to uphold the weak. And so when I look at the children who are in the weak, innocent phase, and see, weak to me is innocent. It's not wanting to get involved and not even having the ability to get involved. It's like a decision that's already been made for you. And so that's what I see, that we always have to put a shield over to allow it to become unadulterated. It's basically like, why are you going to step on a plant that's starting to grow right away? Like if you see a little plant and it's growing, you go step on it right away, it might not grow at all. Versus if it turns into a tree, you try to step on it, it's going to be a little bit different. So here on this dimension, what I've decided to manifest as is the individual that is going to have to carry the world like Atlas itself, keep this being that I know now under multiple guises from just ravaging everything. And I just see that the people that are coming into this knowledge right now are the guided, those that have showed in their heart and in their mind, even maybe not now, but in some segment of life and time, that they are ready for the truth. If it's the truth is sometimes it is to deliver and to condemn. That's it right there. The truth is to deliver and to condemn. For certain individuals, they get the truth and it delivers them from everything that's been holding them back. And if certain individuals, they get the truth and they don't walk away from what they're dealing in, and it condemns them, and that's the end. And then, it flips over again.
I see. Our next question is giants. Okay, are they real? Do they exist now? And are they walking with us?
Well, the Nephilim are definitely walking in spirit, because what happened is that the book of Enoch was once the ancient book of Enoch was released from the Ethiopic text, which is not even the one that's in circulation. They made contact with the 13th fallen angel, and then he let them understand the signals to call the rest of the fallen angels. And so what the high levels of masonry is really about is putting these deities into your body. There's 33rd, meaning which is the segment of the splice in the chromosome where the reptilian concept is completely put into the human form, the human body. At that point, after 33, you can inherit a title with only one number, because there's only one person to hold the position. Meaning that if you're a second-degree Mason, the being that you're actually interfacing with at that point is communicating with multiple second-degree Masons. But when you get into the 34th, 35th degree, all the way up to 360 degrees, what they call circle, then those positions are only held by one individual. So So ask me the question again directly, brother.
The question was, this one is, let me see, giants, are they real?
Oh, yeah, okay. So what happened is that, I'm sorry, I just had to catch my train of thought, because, it is getting to that 3 hour, it's getting to that 3 hour mark. So what happened was with these particular beings, what they did was that the highest in the parliaments actually are have these beings inside of them. Even some of the movie actors, because they cover more than one particular human, they can possess more than one, just have to do the ritual. Like with Samael, he's possessed by Samael, the actual fallen angel, Mr. Jackson. So what happens is that Mr. Mace Windu, as he calls himself, the purple lightsaber, the violent violence. And so basically what's happening is that these men take these deities into their body and go into communion with them, and they say it's something like, for better lack of words, it's a sexual experience even for the male. What happens is that these beings are now incarnated into flesh. Now, the ones that were actual physical beings, most of them have been removed from the surface of the earth, and the ones that retreated to the cavern systems lost a lot of their stature because of being in cavern systems, but still contain the girth, like they're broad people, big-boned people.
Oh, okay. And we also are going to take another question from our switchboard from my beloved one, who has decided to join us. Tamara, are you there?
I am. I'm here. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Sevan. Oh, my God. This is Mystery School night.
Oh, yes.
The Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Yeah, I am just loving it. I've looked at your site and I've read the code. I've read quite a bit of it, and I'm just wondering, for those of us who are just beginners, we're novices here, what would you advise us to begin with? Where should we start?
I really always start with the crystals personally, because the crystals hold a lot of energy, and that's really because, like, when people were coming into the site, let me just explain it from this point, because unless you're able to get a hold of orgone energy, and we can talk about that, maybe another segment, because we got like 10 minutes left, but as far as what's available to most people, I would always start with the crystals, because crystals themselves are their own beings, so they tend to know how to individual a lot better than we even know in our current state of awareness. We even know how to treat another individual. And they immediately, because they've always been allies to mankind, they immediately go into, so that's normally where I tell a person to start with the crystals first, because most of the interfacing they do then is in their sleep. Even when they wake up and they don't even remember what happened, there's a lot of work that the crystals have done with the person in the sleep. And then, of course, what we talked about before, which is what I'm going to get on your show when it's time to talk about, is the actual processes that you could take the body through to become more, I used the perfect word earlier today, it's basically the body into to make it more sensitive to paranormal activity. And this part of the particular phase is really based on energy, and that's why I really want Blair to be able to come forward and for me and him to interface, because he knows, he was talking about today, the blood has to keep 120 hertz of energy pumping through it, and anyone who knows the hertz of the blood and the secret behind the gold or the ormes has the Philosopher's Stone, which was known as the Great. Like there was already all this that we're doing now, and that's how we're going backwards. All this we're doing now, the height of it was already figured out. The height of this planet and what you could achieve here was already figured out. And men have pursued in our direction the quest of finding something very specific, which they call the Philosopher's Stone, all their lives. And now at this point, you can buy the Philosopher's Stone, and it's only because people are ignorant to what it is, they don't know to buy it. And that's how like I talked about before on the other show, that's how society has flip-flopped. Now what's precious is immediately available to you. Meteorites are now available to you. But it's looked at as, no, I want a diamond. Well, you'll be here forever then. That playing around with that type of energy, yeah, diamond is forever. You will be here forever. And then such goes the forwards and the forefathers and going forward. And then you understand this being, this four, who's really F and then the or. This or is controlling things from the fourth dimension. It's just like you said, it's like an older kid picking on a younger kid. And then they're upset because they can't ascend because of this behavior. So what they're afraid of is that when we get to the higher level, we're going to do them like they did us. So they're constantly trying to keep us from going to the higher level. And nothing explains it more clear than that. And that's exactly what I've seen. And they'll do anything, the actual deities themselves. And it's funny because I've got a chance to watch them. And to watch them is like watching a little kid that is so bent on an idea it doesn't see anything else. And that's sometimes what you can catch in a glimpse in the eye of some of these people raving and ranting about stuff that's not true. When they get on the stage and, black brother, I'm telling you here today that we're going to have everything back, that now the tide has turned, and we're about to take everything just like they took it from us, and then, and then, all of this we already talked about, man. When Hitler would get people together, man, he'll make all their hearts think up to madness. Because that's what happens when groups of individuals around each other, one person with that energy that comes from most of the time an external force, it syncs all their hearts up. People's hearts start beat fast, blood starts to go up, root chakra turns on, fire is lightened, then it gets into the crown with whatever idea. Even if the person is saying, a snake is going through my body, and now it's in my brain. See, the Kundalini is not a being. They communicate. It's a serpent. It goes up through your spine. They want to sell this now. Kundalini is the energy. Just because man sees spiral force doesn't mean that it's a serpent. But what they do is for individuals that awaken Kundalini in these schools and these training camps, they tell them it's two serpents going up your spine. And then because the person's already in, if you're raising your Kundalini, you're in the level of creation right then. So you're going to manifest anything you think. And that's what's happening. What they're doing is they're taking the ones that are spiritually calibrated. Only reason why the gig has been able to hold up so long, obviously. And then they're using them as almost like antennas, organic antennas in areas, organizations, media, etc., and allowing them to spew their controlled aura over everything and its consciousness, which is, definitely showed in the decoder film. And exposing this and knowing that this is going on starts to make a person immune to it. And that's really what's happening. We're people now immune to it by letting them know what's going on. They don't have to run from it. All CNI has so much data, it knows where everyone is. There's nothing to be afraid of. But as they say, fear itself. Now, coming out, I'm more afraid of what's going to happen on this dimension if we don't do something than if we do. In real logic, it doesn't need to be scared about what's going on after death on the other side. If we stay here alive, it could be a problem. And so that's what challenges the person to see what's out further, and we find it. And if all of this was just all set up so that we would, they did a good job. Because at this point, there's so much stuff that seems to be about to hatch here within the next year, I'm not really wanting to stick around for it unless I'm pulling people directly out of the matrix and taking them somewhere else. And so that's where we really set our ideas, because we know that that's possible. The indigenous show that they can take whole groups of people in their spirit body to new levels of consciousness that have already been created within the mind, free from the influences of stars and moons and meteorites and all these different things that has been caught up in on these dimensions in the fallen state. Man, like I even got a lot of encouraged today is because Earth has been given the path to ascend itself. And I knew, when I heard that, I knew that the individual that was saying it was telling the truth. And that means a lot, because Earth has been going through some things, just like our women on this planet have been going through some things and making some decisions. Some of them have been right, some have been wrong. And then, they've been here, they've nurtured us. Because even when I understood that the planet's energy and decisions that it's made, at one moment that I even got upset at it, and it said to me, but I fed you. How could you can never get upset at me, I still fed you. And so this is really what we're moving with things now. We say, what, we'll help you, Mom. We'll help if some other beings have infested the planet and decide they want to shoot depleted uranium on the mother now, and decide they want to shoot and their perforators and their hadron colliders and all these different things they want to keep torturing the Earth with. What, to see how much she can really handle? And then so what I understand is that when the sons come forth in their true term, meaning that we were born here, and when we come stand up, then everything has to, and that's what we're going to see within the media and the mainstream, is when the youth stand up, we're powerful. And we just are. That's not an over-exaggeration or anything. And that's what all this has been about, keeping us from knowing that in its totality. But now the keys are back in his hand. The big boys are out of retirement, as I always say.
That's right. Now.
And because I did want to make it clear before I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to make it clear that all giants were not evil. Just to make that clear, like the Nephilim and the Fallen, the Rephaim were a tribe, but there were other tribes that were also giants, or what they would call a titan, and they weren't evil. So just to make sure that that's clear.
I see, brother. We're winding down. We got about 5 minutes left. Yeah, quickly, tell us what's going on now, what you got coming up, and your website.
Well, what we're doing now is that I'm definitely looking forward to collaborating with you, brother, and getting these movies out in these series. We're shooting films. Well, we're collaborating films. It's just kind of a different method of doing things, but it will definitely allow a person to see visually what's going on. We want to redo the Code to the Matrix again and put in more of the information of what we continue to find out. The site is www.thewords.ning.com. That's www.thewords.ning.com. We're basically constantly in the experiment. Every day I have something new going on, either from what I've seen on the other side or from what I see. And we just plan on getting ready to make our interest into society as soon as we get the support from the elders, so that we can get ready to go out here and keep the torch lit, as they say, and take individuals to the next level of their existence. That's pretty much what's going on. We want to go to the higher level of existence. We're tired of this game. Like Earth is now, you can do a lot of things here. It's a beautiful place, but we're ready for more. We're ready for what we know and we feel inside of our hearts, and we're not going to be shut up about it. Like no one's just going to say, hey, okay, well, that was fine and dandy, but hey, you're not this lifetime, son. Then we're not taking no for an answer anymore. We're ready to confront anything that we need to confront to get us there. And I just invite people to rally with us and to let's get this thing started. Well, it's already started. Let's keep it going faster.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Very powerful. I'm already looking forward to your next appearance, brother. But I just want to let everybody know that tomorrow, tune in with us tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we will have another powerful guest, Patricia Corey of patriciacorey.com of the Syrian Revelation. She'll be returning with us from Rome, Italy tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, so please join us for that one as well. And Brother Sevan, much love, much respect. Thank you so much for what you shared with us this evening. We know you're just getting warmed up, and you already know we're teammates.
Definitely. Look forward to
you again.
Yes, and I look forward to your appearance on Illuminations on the 19th. I am so excited. And you know what? Don't be surprised if we have the Elder Griot, Delbert Blair, on with you.
Ah!
If I could talk to
yes.
the Father, that would help me out a lot.
Oh, yes. Believe me, it won't be a problem making that happen. You know, that won't be a problem at all. Yes, so I mean, once again, it was a pleasure, and brother, we will definitely be talking. Much love and respect to you, and I will be talking to you shortly. Be well, beloved one.
Yes,
you
good
too,
night.
brother.
Okay, and my beloved Tamara, always around to help. You know, and I couldn't do this if it wasn't for you. You're the rock that I lean on. And I just thank you so much for stopping in with us this evening and contributing. Thank you so much. I love you.
Oh, you're so very welcome. I love you too.
So please, everyone, join us tomorrow afternoon, where we will have once again Patricia Corey of patriciacorey.com. Please go to her website. Very powerful information. And she represents the Syrian High Council, Syrian Revelation. She's also wrote some very powerful books. And we also want to take the time to thank you, beloved family, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us this evening on Occult Science Radio.